Hello and welcome to this video where you can follow my journey of having a tonsillectomy, that is, having an operation to have my tonsils removed. Now I'm making this video so that anyone out there who's going through a similar thing will find some comfort in this maybe, and I'm going to talk in great detail about each step right from the very beginning right through to the very end. Now I'd like to point out that this is going to be quite a long video, so I'm splitting it into 5 parts. I'll put the times on the screen now, and I'll put links in the description as well. So if you want to skip to a certain part, you can. So part 1, we're going to take a look at why I'm having this done. Part 2, I'm going to talk about the run-up to the operation. Part 3 will be about the operation itself. Part 4 is about the recovery. And part 5 will be a general overlook and a summary, and I'll let you know how the whole thing went. My journey is a little bit different as well because I'm having this done in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm having it done for diagnostic reasons, which I'll explain in the later part of the video. And also, this has been a long lifetime problem for me, a really lifelong problem I should say. So ever since I was a kid, I've had this trouble, and I'll be talking about all those things and more in this video. Now I do want to point out that I am working as a qualified online hypnotherapist. So if anybody out there watches this video and you're really scared about going for this operation or really worried about it, then I'll put a link in the description to my practice where you can simply have a chat with me online, and we can use hypnosis or other methods to just make your mind a lot calmer, and you may find you even look forward to this instead of dreading it. A very quick point, if at any point during this video I do sound a bit hoarse or a bit rough with my voice, of course remember I am having a tonsillectomy. That is somewhat the whole point of the video. So with all that being said, let's start with part 1. Okay, so here we go with the long story about why I'm having my tonsils removed. This is a very long story and it's going to be very detailed, so maybe some people will find this interesting, and it does go into detail about my life and my history. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may find this interesting, but if you do want to skip ahead, remember you can always skip ahead to the next part if you want to. So really this all began when I was about 5 years old. I had a speech problem, and it became noticed that I just couldn't speak very well. Now, I don't remember this at all, having this speech issue, but people say that I had my own language, and I was told by someone that I used to use the word vrats as no. So when I looked at the word no, I would pronounce it vrats, which I don't really understand at all. It doesn't make any sense to me now, but that was a long time ago. So anyway, I went through, I think it was about a year or 2 of speech therapy, and I actually became a very good, I think the word is an orator, speaker, talker. And in school when I was a kid, we used to do this thing where we'd have a book and each kid would read a page of the book. So it'd say, you read page 1, person next to you reads page 2. And I became really well known for my reading ability. I had a really clear, crisp voice. I was really good at speaking out loud, and I was very good at spelling and English language, and the teachers used to say, how good I was. Fast forward to when I was about 10 years old. I woke up one morning, and I still remember this, I still remember the direction I was facing in my bed. I woke up and I just had a bit of a sore throat, and I thought, I've just got a sore throat. 30 years later, I've still got it. I've never got rid of that sore throat in the last 30 years. Now this brings me on to why I'm having my tonsils removed. I put up with this for many, many years, but anyway, this problem plagued me all my life. I had constant sore throats. Just imagine what it's like having a sore throat for 30 years. I've always had problems like that where I have to swallow quite hard, I have to breathe quite hard. My breathing is not affected in a bad way, but let's get on to the main point of this video, having the tonsil removed. So it got to April 2020. The Prime Minister's just announced lockdown because of the virus pandemic, and I'm eating a spaghetti bolognese. And after I've swallowed it, I've noticed a piece of the meat is stuck in my throat. So I keep swallowing it won't go down. I go and have a drink of orange squash, I think it was, and it still wouldn't go down. And after about 10 minutes, the feeling went. 2 days later, when I was in the bathroom, I opened my mouth and looked in the mirror to brush my teeth, and I just saw like a strange shape in my mouth, and I thought, what's that? And I opened my mouth wide and looked in, and I'm going to put a picture up on the screen in a moment of what I saw. So if you don't want to see it, it's not really that bad, it's not really that graphic at all, but if you don't want to see it, look away now, and I'll tell you when you can look back. This is what I saw. This is a lump I had in my throat. And the picture's gone now, so you can look back if you looked away. So anyway, I called up a doctor, and they were really good, my local doctor, considering we was in this pandemic in lockdown and all this. And by the way, I'm filming this on July the 3rd, just so you know, so I haven't yet had the operation. I'm filming this video over the course of about a month. So anyway, I phoned the doctor, and he said it's probably just something called a tonsil stone, which is when you get a bit of food stuck in your tonsil and it makes it inflamed. And he said if it doesn't go away within about a week, come back. It didn't go. I left it about 2 weeks, but it didn't go. So I phoned him up, and the doctor said, come down and we'll have a look. And they saw me in just 10 minutes time. They said, come down, because we shut anyway. We were only letting in, emergency cases. So I went in. He was wearing full PPE, the visor, the gown and all that. It didn't look very pleasant, but he had warned me in advance, so I'm going to be all dressed up and don't be worried about it. He looked in my throat and he said, it's probably a hypertrophic tonsil, which just means your tonsil is inflamed, and there's not really always a reason behind it. Sometimes it's just inflamed. Now, he said, you need to get it looked at in hospital. And I thought, great, I've got to go into hospital in the middle of this global COVID outbreak. And I had only just avoided going in hospital because I was supposed to have a wisdom tooth removed, and I put that back to avoid going in, but I was to end up going into hospital a lot more than I expected. And again, I know this is quite long, but this is, some people like to know all the details. If you don't, again, you can always skip ahead. So I had this hospital appointment come through, and it was only about a week away. So I went in and I had an endoscopy, and this was the second time I'd had this. So I have had an operation before, which I'll be talking about later on and comparing it to this operation. So an endoscopy is when you have this long, thin, I think it's plastic tube. It's about that thick. It's only about 2 or 3 millimeters thick, and it goes up your nose, down your throat, and they can see your tonsils. It doesn't hurt at all. It's slightly uncomfortable, but it's not really any different to just sticking your finger up your nose, if for some reason you do that. But yeah, so I had that done, and they said, can't see anything. And the doctor I saw before had already said, it's probably nothing serious. The second doctor, who was an ear, nose and throat specialist, said, it's probably nothing serious, but just to be safe, we'll send you for an MRI scan. So I went home, and I think it was about 2 days later, it was exactly 2 days later, I had a letter saying that in 6 days' time, I had an MRI scan. So I had to go into hospital again, lie on this tray, and there's this huge circular thing comes past you, and it's really loud. That was probably the most unpleasant part of me ever being in a hospital, and I don't want to put you off if you're going through that, but it's really, really loud. It's a bit like being run over by a bus. You're lying in this dark tunnel, and you can hear bang, 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 zip, 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 and then these noises going zoo, 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 zoo. It's really strange, and you have this thing in your hand, a pump you can press if you get too worried, and it can talk to you over an intercom. So anyway, being a hypnotist, that made it a little bit easier for me because I simply took myself off in my mind to a beach. I wasn't in the machine, I was on a beach, and 40 minutes went by. I must say it felt like a lot longer than that, but it was 40 minutes. And then they said, go home, and they said, don't worry if we send you a letter calling you back in, because that's standard procedure. We just do that, so it doesn't mean anything's really bad. I had that letter. That was the longest I had to wait between things. That was 1 day less than a month later. So I think I went for a scan on the 2nd of June. I had the letter on the 1st of July. No, I had the letter, I can't remember, I had it late June. So that's it, I had the scan on the 2nd of June. I had the letter about 3 weeks later telling me to go back in on the 1st of July. So I went back in, and that was quite unpleasant, this third visit, because all the time that I've been in hospital, I was thinking, have I had this virus? And I had to wait 2 weeks till after I've been in hospital. And I didn't pick it up. They were great. They were very professional. It was all being run, very cleanly. So I went in, and the day of that wasn't very nice. The day I got my test results, so I was thinking all day, and even the day before, I wonder what they're going to say. And I walked in, and the consultant just said, "Oh, nothing showed up on the scan." Like, couldn't you have told me that in the letter? At least just say nothing showed up, but you need to come back in. And the consultant said he had another look. He just had a quick look in my mouth, and he said, "Look, again, I don't think it's anything serious." That's now the third doctor, consultant, whatever, who said it's nothing serious. But he said, "This is what we can do. You can walk out of here today and just leave it and just carry on with your life as normal, because it's almost definitely nothing and you'll probably be okay. But we would want you to come back in every 6 weeks or so to be checked out." Or option 2 is you can have an operation to have your tonsils removed. The benefit of that is, although you'd have to go through an operation and quite a long run-up, which I'll explain in a moment, that comes in the next part. Because we're in the middle of this pandemic, I had to go through a run-up that you wouldn't always have to go through. And he said, if you have that done, we can look at the tonsils under a microscope or whatever they do. We can give you an exact diagnosis 10 days after the operation. So you'll know for definite if it is anything bad with your tonsils or not. And he said it's probably not. And at the time I record this, that was only 2 days ago. So I don't know the result, but I will be giving you the result at the end of this video. And that'll be about 5 weeks' time I record that. So he said, yeah, if you have them out and we look at them, you'll know for definite, even if it's not the tonsil and it's something else, because that's the problem. I don't want to worry anyone who's got this, but sometimes you can have other problems and your tonsil pops up as a symptom of another problem. That's what the consultant said. And he said, look, don't worry, it's 99% certain, it's nothing else. But that's what your options are. You can walk out of here and just carry on with your life, but you'll probably never know what it was. Or you can go through an operation and find out for definite. So as you probably guessed, I went for the operation, because to me it makes sense. There's also a slight quirk with the way that this is going to be done. In the UK we have hospitals and private hospitals like you probably do in other countries, because people all around the world will be watching this video. Now I don't have private care, I just go to a normal everyday hospital because they're really good anyway. The waiting times are quite low and I always get really good service from them, and they're brilliant. But they said what's happening at the moment is because of COVID-19, all of the operations like yours are being done in private hospitals. So I'm actually going to have it done in a private hospital with my own private room and satellite TV and Wi-Fi in the room. It's like, I know someone who's been in there and they said it's like a 5-star hotel. So that's really where I am now. I'm just filming this, like I say, on the 3rd of July 2020. So I've been into hospital. I'm having the operation probably the end of July. I'm just waiting for the letter, which could come today or who knows when. And that's where I am at the moment. So in the next part of the video, part 2, we're going to take a look at the run-up to the operation. Because of COVID-19, there are different procedures happening. That's why I wanted to make this video. So I haven't seen any others out there that were made since the pandemic happened. So that's all for part 1, and I'll see you soon in part 2. Hello and welcome to part 2 of this video, where we're taking a look at the run-up and preparation for the operation. Now if you wonder what I mean by the run-up, well, because of COVID-19 it's no longer as simple as just going in and having the operation as you used to. So I'm going to be talking about how that's changed things. I'm also going to be showing you lots of things I've bought in preparation for my recovery. So you can't see them, but I've got a big pile of things on the floor there. Food, drink and accessories. Then I'm going to show you and tell you why I've bought each one, and you might want to buy them for yourselves. I'm also going to take a look at a previous operation I had back in 2007, so I can make comparisons between this and that one in the future. I'm going to give you 2 tips that could save your life after the operation. And the big news really is I've now got the date, time and location of my operation. So let's start off with that. Now I did want to do this by opening the letter and talking to you about it and giving you my reaction. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you look at it, they just phoned me and gave me the date a few days ago. So today is July the 18th, 2020. It's a Saturday. It's about 2 weeks after I filmed part 1. Lots has happened since then. I've got so much to talk about in this part, as well as what I mentioned. I've had a real roller coaster ride the last couple of weeks with things happening. So anyway, I had a phone call and the date of my operation is the 3rd of August 2020 at 7 AM. So yeah, nice and early. They did say that it probably won't take place until about 9 AM, but you have to go in a bit early, to make sure you're there in time and you're ready for the operation. So today's Saturday, the operation is 2 weeks on Monday, so in just over 2 weeks' time I will have had it done. So I've been preparing for this, and first of all I'm going to talk about how it's different because of COVID. Now, they said that what happens is when you're going for the operation now, you have to isolate for 2 weeks before the operation, and you then have to go and have a COVID test before, about 2 or 3 days before the operation date. Now, that can be a bit of a pain because you've got to have 2 weeks off in the run-up to the operation. Then you need at least another 2 weeks off afterwards. So if you're having this done, and I really hope, by the way, that when you watch this, I hope that COVID-19 is a thing of the past and it's all gone. But who knows when that's going to happen. This video could be up for months or years, but I really hope that when you watch this, all this is over and you don't have to go through this as I am. Now, I've also just had a text message this morning saying that my pre-op is on the 28th of July at 8:30. That's just done over the phone. So the pre-op, if you don't know, is before you have an operation. They always just talk to you to explain things and answer any questions, and they check your, well, I was going to say they check your weight and your height, but they won't be doing that over the phone. I've already had that done when I went to the hospital. So yeah, that's the differences with COVID-19. Now I am going to film myself going for that test. I don't know yet whether it's a drive-in test or whether it's one in the post. I don't know. They haven't told me that. But if you don't know, as well as this, which you'll be watching on my hypnotherapy channel, I have been running a driving school for the last 20 years, and I've got over 400 videos of me doing driving lessons, driving tests, instructor training. So I've got cameras in the car, and I will be filming myself going for that COVID test, and you'll be seeing that coming up towards the end of part 2. Now let's have a look next at these things that I've bought, and I'm going to talk you through each of these items that I've got. So I bought this. This is a V pillow. So if you want to search for V pillow, this costs £8.05, including delivery. And it's pretty good. I was expecting it to be smaller, but it's really, really good. And what this is for is because people have told me, I've watched many videos on YouTube, and I will link in the description to the videos that I watched, so you can check those out as well. And I'll put links to some of these things in the description. There'll be loads of things in the description for you to check out, links to my sites and where you can buy these things. So this is for, imagine you're in bed and you put it like that, and when you're in bed it allows you to sit up. It's a bit different in bed because you're a bit lower down. It's like that, so you can sit up in bed and rest your head, and it's quite comfortable. I have seen people using them in other ways, like you can lie on them, people hug them like that. I've seen sometimes people have had them like this. So you can sleep sitting upright if you want. It's up to you how you use it. But it's really good, quite cheap, only just over £8. I wasn't expecting to get too much for that, but it's really good. The quality is quite thick. And yeah, it's good. So if I can get it to stay on there, I'll just put it down there for now. So next thing I've bought is, this is all for the recovery. That's this, not something I'd normally buy, but it's a super smoothie, innocent berry protein. And I should point out, none of this stuff has been sponsored. These are all things I bought myself with my own money, so I'm not being sponsored by anyone. But not the kind of thing I normally buy, but the reason I've bought this is because of protein. Now, I'm not medically trained or anything, but apparently protein helps your body to heal. So a lot of people, a lot of experts have told me protein heals your body. So I bought that to help me recover faster. Also because once you've had the operation, many people have said you won't be able to swallow food for about a week. Now this is quite nutritious, and it's got loads of, protein, strawberry, raspberry, apple and coconut milk with soya protein. Now they do say to avoid milk, but I think coconut milk's okay. I think it's like cow's milk can make your throat quite thick. It's all producing mucus and it's bad. I noticed that years ago when I used to have trouble in the mornings. I was always coughing a lot in the morning, and someone said, "What do you have for breakfast?" And I had cereal with milk. And I said, just try stopping having that. Try bread instead, or try toast, whatever, and see what happens. And the difference was incredible. I stopped coughing because the milk was just coating my throat. So it's not good to have much milk or any dairy product when you're recovering. However, one doctor I saw on YouTube did say that it's different for everyone. So, everything's different for everyone. I don't know if I'm going to like the taste of this. It's not something I normally get. I probably won't even be able to taste it because you are apparently likely to lose your sense of taste for a few days after the op. Some people say they have. So I've got 5 of those. And the way I've done this is I've had I've had 2 big deliveries. I've had one big delivery of food a few days ago, and I've got another one coming tomorrow from 2 different places. And I thought I'd do that so I could restock up. And if I didn't get anything I wanted on the first delivery, I could have it delivered on the second. So the way I've planned this, and I've got loads more things to show you. I've got wet hands now because I was a bit damp. So yeah, I'll put that on there because it's just come out of the fridge, it's a little bit damp. So I've bought tons of food. I've got enough food to last me for about 4 weeks of normal food and 2 weeks of operation food. So operation food is what I'm calling the food I'm going to have, hopefully, if I can eat it after the operation. So I've got my fridge freezer full, the cupboards are full, so I don't have to have any contact with anyone for the next 2 weeks because I'm isolating. And yeah, that's it. So I'm all stocked up. I've got tons of food. Let's show you some more of it. Now this is a controversial one, and anyone who's had a tonsillectomy will know that when they see what it is. Cornflakes. Now, some people say don't eat cornflakes. Some people say do eat them. The idea is that apparently some people say, like if you're in America, they say don't eat that kind of food because it's too rough and hard and it scratches your throat. Now I'm in England and they say do eat that because it scratches your throat. It's the complete opposite advice. And I understand it's because that when you eat them, you have like scabs in your throat and dry blood, and you have like debris in your throat after the operation, and that's apparently good for getting rid of it. But some people say it really hurts to eat those, and of course if you have them with milk, we just said about drinking milk. So I don't know, I'll have to let you know about that. But all this stuff is stuff I would use anyway, apart from maybe the protein stuff, but it's all things I would normally have. Another thing I've bought is lots of these jellies. I've got some of these. I've got 10 at the moment. I've got another 10, I think, coming tomorrow in a delivery. Jelly is one of the few things you can eat, people say, after a tonsillectomy, because your throat is completely swollen, sore. People say it's so sore you can't even swallow. Although I understand it's better if you do swallow saliva and not spit it out, because it's supposed to help the recovery. I've watched loads of videos on this, as you can tell. I've done all my research. So that's another one, that jelly. And I've also got these. This is more jelly. This is stuff you can make yourself. So you melt it and you can pour it into containers, and it makes a jelly about, like, feels like a cereal bowl. I think you can fill 2 cereal bowls with that. And I've got another 4 of those coming tomorrow, I think. Next thing, apple sauce. Never had this before in my life. I mean, I suppose it's just sauce made from apples. It's pretty obvious, but I've never had it. This is one of the few things you can eat, again, after the op. People have said you lose about a stone in weight within a week after the operation, which sounds a bit frightening, but it's apparently quite normal. And again, this has got how many calories? Each 100 grams is 280. So this has got about 300 calories in one of those. So that's pretty good. People have said that you can only eat about that much of them because you just can't eat after the op. I'll let you know about that. My plan is to have that, and can you guess what that is? Pasta. So you can warm this up. I ordered 3 of those and 3 of those, but they only had 5 of these and 1 of these. So this is just basic pasta. You cook it and then let it cool down, and people say you can swallow it quite easily. Sorry, again, if I've got a sore throat, remember I'm having my tonsils out, so this is one reason I'm having my tonsils out. Yeah, you just cook it, let it cool down. People say it slides down your throat. I mean, I've had pasta before, I've had spaghetti or whatever. But yeah, I've got 6 boxes of that. So my diet is really going to be applesauce. Yeah, I think I've got 5 or 6 things. Applesauce, pasta, jelly, cornflakes, eggs, and freeze pops or ice pops. Now, I bought lots of those, and I'll put some pictures on the screen now of the ice pops that I bought. They're supposed to be really good because people say you can just put them in your mouth and they're really soothing and calming and cooling, and they just melt and trickle down your throat, and it's like, you know, drinking and eating at the same time, I suppose. So yeah, I've got loads of ice pops. I think I bought, you can get them for £1 for a pack of 20, and I think I've got about 35 of them. So I can have about, 3 or 4 a day over the course of a week. Yeah, and I've got enough to last me having 3 or 4 a day over quite a few days. Next thing we've got is some straws. I've actually just remembered one thing in there, which I'll go and grab in a moment. I bought these because people have said it's a lot easier to drink from a straw after the operation. And it's even got a free straw cleaner. It's a deluxe pack. It's like a metal straw cleaner. So some people, I've only had one person say that they were advised not to have straws, but I bought those just in case. And I'm just going to go and grab the other item, which I left in the kitchen. So this is the item I left in there. I've had this for a few years. It's a glass pineapple with a straw at the top. People say you don't want to get out of bed much when you've had the operation, so I'm going to fill that with cool, icy water, leave it by my bed, and you can just, you know, have a sip. I might be sitting up in bed because people say you can't lie down and go to sleep because apparently it really hurts when you lie down after this operation. For the first day or 2 you're okay, then it starts hurting more, people say. But I'll be telling you all that in my part 4. So I've got the pineapple. Now I've also got lots of mints. I've got some imperial mints in the bowl. See those? And I've got some lots of Mentos and mint selection. Why have I got mints? Well, just wait till I start rustling and I'll tell you. Now I know from my previous operation, which I'll be talking about in a moment, you have, and you may not like this, but you've got to know this stuff, a few days after the op, you have the most horrific smell and taste in your mouth. It smells like rotting flesh, and that's because it's rotting flesh. Because some of the flesh in your throat molds away, melts away, whatever, and it gets all rotten a few days after the op. And I remember this smell before, and it probably will be worse this time because what I had before was on my nose and on my throat, so it wouldn't be, but I don't know, it might be the same because it's all linked together, nose, throat, ears. But yeah, you have the most horrendous smell. It's just like blood and flesh. So those mints are for that reason, to kind of get rid of that smell. I should point out some mints, I don't know about those, but some mints do act as a laxative. Now, I didn't know what that meant years ago. And when I was working as a driving instructor, I had a pack of mints in my car. And I wondered why I kept needing a toilet. And I thought, I've got to go and see a doctor because this isn't normal. I was having to run to the toilet every 10 minutes. And when I read on this pack of mints, if you take too many, it acts as a laxative, which means it makes you run for the toilet. Now, I didn't know that, so be careful if you have too many mints. Some of them can have that effect. I've also bought, people have said, by the way, that you can't go to the toilet as well after the operation, so who knows, maybe the mints will even help. Again, I'm not medically trained, this is all just my opinion. Chewing gum, don't normally have that at all, but people have said that chewing apparently helps with the taste in your mouth, and it helps produce saliva, and it helps in general, helps to ease the pain. Sugar-free, it's got a picture of your tooth there. Well, not your tooth, but of a tooth. So yeah, 3 packs of those. I thought they'd be bigger actually, they're very small packs, so I might get some more of those in my delivery tomorrow. And the final items are these. So these hot and cold gel packs, I bought these off eBay they were £2, what were they, £2 and about £2.09 each. So about £5 for the 2, including delivery. These are packs that you can put in the freezer, or you can put them in the microwave or a pan of hot water to boil them, to heat them up. Not to boil them, to boil the water and heat these up. Now you want them cold for use after a tonsillectomy. You put them in the freezer for about an hour. It doesn't say on the back, it talks loads about what to do to heat them. It doesn't even mention freezing them at all, but it does say on the front, freeze for a relieving cold compress, which doesn't tell you how long for. But people have said put them in the freezer for about an hour, and you can hold them like that on your neck, and it helps reduce the swelling, because after a few days your throat swells like a frog's throat. It comes out down here apparently. These are all things I've got to look forward to. So yeah, that's all my items. There may be some others. If I've forgotten any, I'll put them in another bit of the video later, but I'm pretty sure that's all the things I've bought. So I've got my food, my drink, my pillow, my mints, and all that didn't cost much. I think it was about £20 for the whole lot of everything that I bought, maybe about £25. But bear in mind, you'll be eating this food. That's the only food you'll be having for a week or 2. So it doesn't cost any extra, because you won't be buying normal food. Instead, normal food you won't be buying what you normally eat, but you'll be having that instead. So let me now just put all that stuff away so it doesn't look quite too messy for the rest of the video, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you about this operation I had before. Okay, so I'll put all that stuff away, and I'm going to talk to you now about the operation I had back in 2007. I'm just going to talk briefly about this, just so you know I have had an operation before, so I do have a slight advantage over someone who's never had one before. So in 2007, I had an operation on my nose. I went to see a doctor and I said I'm just sick of getting sore throats all the time, and I'm constantly like coughing, and I've always got a hoarse voice. So they gave me an endoscopy, which I had a few weeks ago as well, but this was years ago. It's a little tube, I think I mentioned in my last part of the video. It goes up your nose, and as soon as I put it in, it was only like, imagine that's the camera. As soon as you got to about here, they said, "Oh, did you know you've got polyps?" Now, I don't know what polyps were, I never heard of them. Polyps are apparently like little growths. It's a bit like having spots in your nose. So a bit like having a zit growing inside your nose. And they say they look like peas, but I've seen them and I don't think they look anything like peas. But anyway, it's like a little swelling spots, whatever, inside your nose. So I had an operation to have those removed, and they did something with the bit in the middle of my nose, the septum. They moved it around. I think it was called a cetosplasy. And every time I say that to a doctor, they say, "I know it would have been a rhino something," all these technical terms of rhinosplasy or something. But it wasn't, so I remember the doctor said, "Oh no, yours doesn't involve any rhinos." Anyway, so I went in for this operation, And the thing I want to talk about is the way it works with the anaesthetic, because I had this kind of concern that it wasn't going to work on me, and I thought they're going to give it me and it's not going to work and I'm going to be awake during the operation. Well, I remember I went in about 10 o'clock in the morning and I had one of those books, one of those green books over there, and they said to me, your name, went through all the details, and they said, just have a seat in the bed or lie down on the bed and we'll come and get you when we're ready. And I always remember, because I was reading my book, and it's one of those choose your own adventure books, fighting fantasy, where you read a page. Well, this isn't going too much off topic, we'll get back soon. I just want to give you all these details because I remember them. It's like, you're in a cave. If you want to turn down the left fork, turn to page 3. If you want to go down the right fork, turn to paragraph 10, whatever. So you can choose your own adventure. And I was reading one of those books and I finished it, closed the book, and as soon as I closed it, the door opened and the nurse came in and said, we're ready for you now. I always remember that, the perfect timing. The pages had just touched and the door opened, and I always remember that. But anyway, let's get back on track. The nurse took me into this room. They wheel you into a room, I believe for a tonsillectomy. Did they wheel me? No, I walked in, that's right. I walked in. Now you walk in and you actually sit on this bed, which I suppose they're going to do the operation on. Now this is where it can be a bit frightening for some people, because you're walking into an operating theatre. The way I did it last time is I only walked into like, what do you call it, like an airlock. Don't think it's called an airlock, but it's like a room between the hospital and the theatre, and they gave me the anaesthetic in that room. But the huge advantage I have in that respect is, for all of my life, I've been short-sighted, so I wear contact lenses and glasses. Now when you're short-sighted, without my lenses in, I can only see to about there, and beyond that I can see like things, but they're blurred and out of focus, just like when a camera is out of focus and it's kind of blurred in the background. So I couldn't actually see any of this stuff in the theatre, so it didn't bother me. So if you are short-sighted, that's quite an advantage for if you don't want to see what's going on. So anyway, they put you on a trolley, they put this thing, I think it's called a cannula, I'm not sure, this like little tube goes in your arm. It doesn't hurt at all. If ever you've been scratched by a cat, it just feels a bit like that. It's like a short, sharp scratch. And they then sort of lie you on the bed, and I remember I was laughing because I hadn't been sleeping very well in the run-up to this operation. Nothing to do with having the op, I just hadn't been sleeping very well. And I was so excited, I was smiling. And I remember the surgeon said to me, you are supposed to be nervous, you're not supposed to be happy and enjoying this. And he was just laughing, he was joking around, but I was so happy. And I said to them, oh, I'm just so glad I'm going to get some rest because I've not been sleeping very well. And I remember some people have told me that they count down. They say when you have the general anaesthetic, which puts you, sends you to sleep. I'd never say puts you to sleep. That's a horrible thing to say. They don't put you to sleep. They don't put you down. They just give you this thing which sends you to sleep. You got to be careful how you word things, because I'm a hypnotist. It's not very nice when I say to someone, I'm going to put you to sleep. Anyway, so they give you this stuff. And I remember saying to the surgeon, when am I going to have the anaesthetic? Because I didn't know. I'd had it. I didn't feel a thing. And I remember he said, you've already... And then it just went... He's gone, and I suppose he was going to say you've already had it, and you got halfway through, you've all read, and then you just go. So when you have it, it's not like you're going to sleep. You don't feel drowsy. You're there, and they're going to work as a hypnotist. So it's like when you say to someone, sleep, and they just go. You just completely go. When you wake up, it's quite odd, because I remember waking up about 2 hours later, and it's like having your eyes closed. My eyes were closed. It was all dark and black. And all I could hear in the very distance, like miles away, was an Indian man saying my name. And he was going, Paul, Paul. And he was getting closer and closer every time he said it. But it sounded like he was miles away, and he was gradually getting closer and closer. And I could hear myself being wheeled around the hospital. And I could hear the doors opening. Those doors they have where they hid them with a trolley and it opens. And I could hear him saying, the operation was a success. Wake up. And he was saying, wake up. And he started getting a bit impatient with me. And he was saying, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I remember it took about 10 minutes before I could open my eyes. Now, we'll talk more about this in the future in the recovery part. But if you've never had an operation before, if you think that you're going to wake up from an anaesthetic like you wake up from a sleep, then dream on. If you'll excuse the pun. It's nothing like the same. You don't just wake up and it takes at least 2 hours after waking up. You're sort of like this. Your eyes can barely open and you've got no idea what day it is. You don't know what's going on. You're completely out of it. And you're still looking around like this and everything aches. Your body just hurts. It feels like you've aged about 50 years. So anyway, I'll talk more about that in the future. One more quick story I'll tell you. I always remember the man up in the bed opposite me. His wife came in to see him. She'd been with him before the op, and she came back 2 hours later, and this bloke burst into tears, and he was saying, "Oh, it's been so long since I've seen you." And I was thinking, it's only been 2 hours? And I know some people do get emotional about operations, but he was really screaming, crying like a baby. And I thought, it's only been 2 hours. And there was me on my own. No one came to visit me. I just did it all on my own. But anyway, just to warn you, people can get emotional sometimes. I've heard people often cry after the anaesthetic wears off. I didn't last time, so I think I'll be fine. But I'll be talking more about that in the future in this video. That leads me on nicely though to my next thing about the 2 tips I'm going to give you that can save your life. Now you need to remember that once you've had this operation, you won't be able to speak for at least a week, well, at least 3 or 4 days afterwards. Your throat is going to be swollen, sore, you won't be able to speak much at all, and it really, really hurts apparently, as anyone who's having this operation will probably know. When you've had tonsillitis, it kills. So, I was thinking, that could be dangerous. What happens if I need to call an ambulance or call for help of any kind and I can't speak? Now, I've no doubt these days there is a way you can do it online, but I thought, what if I'm upstairs in the bed and I'm stuck or whatever, and I can't get online, I can't be typing on the phone or whatever. So I had an idea, and I've never heard anyone else give this suggestion, but I think it's a great suggestion. I recorded, over there on my computer, I've got a microphone, and I recorded 6 phrases. I recorded myself speaking 6 phrases into the microphone. So, in one of them, I say, this is for if I have to phone the emergency services, I say police, ambulance and fire brigade. Yes, no. And in the 6th message I read out, I'll say something along the lines of, "Hello, please listen to this recorded message, it's important. I've just had my tonsils removed, blah blah." I'll give them my name, my address, and I'll spell it phonetically like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. And I'll say it twice, very clearly so they can understand it. And I've recorded them on there, and I'll transfer them to this. This is what I'm recording the sound for this video on. It's a little dictaphone with a speaker. So if I am in an emergency, I can just dial the emergency services, and I can scroll through, and I can see, I can't show you now because I'm recording this, but I can see on here the file names like yes, no, emergency message, and I can play that through the phone to get help, which I think is a very sensible precaution, because I live alone, so there's no one here to help me if I need help. I'll mention as well briefly, by the way, that so there was a man standing on my garden. Oh, he's taking a picture. He's taking a picture next door because they're selling their place, and they're I think they're getting the garden done. Just wondered why a man was standing on my garden then. Anyway, where was I? I know I do go off track a bit. That's just the style of videos that I do. Some people like it, some don't, but it's just the way I am. So, he's standing on my garden again now. Yeah, so you've got his phrases recorded. And what I was going to say is, if you go in and have the tonsillectomy and you live on your own, they normally insist on you staying overnight, because they say, it could be dangerous if you do have bleeding or whatever afterwards. And they recommend having someone with you for at least 24 hours after the operation. Because I live alone, they've said, otherwise you can go home the same day. You can come out about 6 hours after the op, I think it is. They'll let you go home. So you're not always stuck in there. You can go in, have it done, and come back the same day. but I think I'm going to stay in overnight anyway. So yeah, that's my first tip, is to do that. And I've just thought of another story I can tell you in a moment. So yeah, the other tip I'm going to give you is practice climbing the stairs like this. And I'll explain why I'm doing this. Now, when you've had an operation, I know from before, I hope you can still see me, you can't, I remember last time I couldn't lift my foot more than about that much off the floor. And I didn't live here then, but imagine trying to get up here. You can't, I know you might say I'm fit and young or whatever. You might think you're fit and young. Doesn't matter. When I had my last operation, I was 27 years old. I trained in martial arts, so I was really fit and healthy, and it knocks you out like you wouldn't believe. So I had to actually climb the stairs like this. And I recommend practice doing this. It's very easy, but just give it a go before you go in for your op, because you may well find that once you've had an op, try coming down again as well. You won't be able to walk like this when you've had an op. I remember last time I felt like I'd aged about 50 years, and I was walking, I was 27 years old, and I could not walk any quicker than this. And I remember having to go to the toilet, and it took me about 2 minutes to walk down the corridor to get to the toilet. Now, talking about getting places, it's great the way these things just naturally link together. I haven't planned this at all. The only problem I've got at the moment is how I'm going to get to and from the hospital. I do drive, of course, because I've worked for 20 years as a driving instructor. My car's outside. I could drive myself there, but you're not going to be driving home after an operation. As you just saw with me walking, imagine trying to drive. Bad idea. So I've tried to find someone to give me a lift, and no one is available. They're either working or they're away. I've asked dozens of people. I've even put a message out on my social media where I've got quite a big following, and I've got people offering to help me. But at the moment, I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there. So my plan is I'm going to hopefully find someone to take me. I could get a taxi. I can hear people screaming, just get a taxi. Remember, COVID-19, taxis, lots of different people getting in and out of them. And they've told me that if you get COVID-19, I don't want to worry you, and this may be incorrect because they said we're not sure, but if you get COVID-19 when you have a general anaesthetic, they said that would be bad. And I said, what do you mean? And they just said, well, it will be bad. So I think you know what they mean by that. But you do not want COVID-19 when you have this operation. You're okay before, you're the same as anyone else, and afterwards you're okay. I did ask about, does it matter having your tonsils out? Would that affect your immune system? And they said, well, it does, but not in a way that's really detrimental. They said it makes like 0.1% difference. So in other words, it's not going to make any difference to if you get the virus. It's, they said, look, don't worry about that. Some people argue it does make a difference, but apparently your tonsils are only used until you're people argue about all these things. Some people say until the age of 3, till the age of 7, till the age of 10. But once you're an adult, you don't actually need your tonsils, apparently. I'm not medically trained, I don't know, but that's what I've been told. So, for the moment, that's all I need to say, as if I haven't said enough. So this part's going to be about half an hour long on its own. I think this whole video is going to be probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. But I want to give you as much detail and also a bit of comfort if you're stuck in waiting for your operation. You may appreciate having a nice long, detailed and funny video to watch. So for the moment, that's it. I'm now entering the isolation phase, which won't make any difference because I'm quite fortunate that I've been off work. I'm self-employed. I've been off work anyway for the last 3 or 4 months. And the doctor said to me, the nice thing about what you're doing is, although you've got to go into isolation, I'm already in isolation, so it doesn't really make any difference. I've got to have the next 2 weeks. They said you can go out for walks, you can go out and drive in the car, but just stay on your own. So you're not really stuck in. You can sit in the garden as long as that man's not standing there again. And they said you can go out, you can do whatever, but don't, just stay away from people. And I'm probably just going to stay in anyway to be safe, because I don't want this to be delayed by me catching anything. So for the next 2 weeks, I've got loads I can do. I've got loads of videos to watch. I've got books I can read. I can still do a bit of work online, maybe do my hypnotherapy work over the phone or whatever, over Zoom. So I'm just going to spend the next 2 weeks just chilling out, really, just relaxing. I'm going to enjoy eating as much as I can, because I may not be able to eat after the op. And I'll finish this part off by telling you what I said earlier, when I said it's been a roller coaster few weeks. As if I wasn't going in and out of hospital enough. For 14 years, I've had a problem with abdominal pain. It's always been this unidentifiable abdominal pain, which is really common. Loads of people have it and have said, look, it's nothing serious. And I remember thinking at the start of all this, at least I haven't got that pain. And then it came on. So yeah, I actually went to the doctors this week and they sent me for a scan. They said, you've got to have another scan. I've already had an MRI scan, and they said you've got to have an ultrasound scan, like when you have a baby and they put this thing, the gel and the scanner over your stomach. And they said, because of what's going on at the moment, it'll be months and months before you can get one. The next day the phone has said, we've had a cancellation tomorrow. So I actually got it within 2 days. So yes, I've been in hospital again, and I'm pleased to say they found nothing. They scanned it all, and even though I've had this for years, they've never ever sent me for a scan before. Apparently my other doctor should have done that, but they didn't. And they did a scan that went all over my stomach at the side, and they said, can't see anything, nothing wrong at all. And now it's actually gone, the pain's gone. So it's been a roller coaster ride. I've now been in hospital 4 times in the last 2 months, and I've been to the doctor twice. So I've got to stay in. This tape, I didn't pick anything up from the hospital, any virus or whatever. I very much doubt it, because it was very quiet, hardly anyone in there, and I've been in 3 times before and didn't pick anything up there. Hello, so it's now the 20th of July 2020. This is the first day of my isolation for my operation. Do you notice how many times I get words to rhyme with operation? Anyway, first day of my isolation for the operation, and it's 2 weeks today that I'll be having it. In fact, 2 weeks now, I'll just be going in to have my anaesthetic at this time. So, things are moving along nicely. Anyway, the reason I'm making this video is I've got 3 things to tell you about. I've got some good news, and I've got a few things to show you that I missed off that stash or haul video, whatever you want to call it. So I've got a few more items here to show you. But first of all, I've got some great news. I found someone to give me a lift to and from hospital. So that's brilliant. I put a video up online yesterday, and I just asked all my followers, I explained the situation, and I asked if anyone could help. And within an hour, I'd had several people contact me, and I spoke to a lovely man, spoke to him on the phone, and he lives just almost round the corner from me. And he says he's free, and he's happy to take me in and bring me back, and he works from home, so he can pick me up the same day or the next day, which is great. I can just send him a text and he can be there in about half an hour. So really, really want to say a massive thanks to him. And it's just great, because now that's off my mind. And I did have several other people offer who've said, look, if you need it, I'm still there for you. So that's really good news. I do have a backup plan just in case anything goes wrong on a day, which I'm sure it won't. But my backup plan is I will drive there myself. Now, this is a private hospital. It's not like a huge sprawling hospital. Sometimes you can't park for anywhere within about half a mile of a hospital. This isn't like that. It's a small one. They do have a car park, but I found a road just down from the hospital where I could park, and the plan is I'd have to drive there, leave my car, have the operation, get a taxi home, recover, then get a taxi back to my car, then drive my car back home. So I really don't want to do that. It'll be a lot of fuss, a lot of hassle, but at least I could do that. If it really comes down to it, I could drive there myself and just work it out. The main thing is to get there and get it done. So let's look at a few things now that I didn't mention. And the first one I'll show you is something that the person who rang me said that I think one of their relatives went into hospital, and they gave me a great tip. Now, I had already thought of this, but I forgot to mention it, and I'm glad they told me, because it's something I wasn't sure whether I was going to bother doing, but I certainly will now. And all it is these. In these bags I've got some USB power banks. This one's called a lipstick bank. I think this one was about £8. And there you go, it's from a company called Anchor. And I think, yeah, £8 that was, and it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So all it is, it's got a USB thing. You've probably seen this before. You plug in a phone charging cable or anything that runs off USB, and then there you go, you press the button, shows you it's fully charged there. And yeah, so I can charge my phone up, because what this person told me, who's given me a lift, he said that when they went in, or their relative, whoever went in, they said it was really hard to find a phone charger because they forgot to start the phone charger. So that can charge my phone up 1.5 times. I've also got this massive one here. This is a 20,000 milliamp hour one, and as you can see, it's fully charged. That green light means it's charged, doesn't mean it's fully charged. But this 4 lights fully charged. That can charge my phone about 5 or 6 times, I think, probably more than that. So I'm going to take probably the big one. I'll tie that in just in case I need to charge my phone up. It's just a nice thing to have. Another thing I forgot to mention was some of the food. Mashed potato, that's another one of my main meals I forgot to mention. So I wouldn't eat it hot, but this is instant mashed potato. It's really fun. I might even feel myself making this during my recovery. It's just powder. It's simply mashed potato that they've taken all the water out of, they've dehydrated it, and you put it into a cup or whatever. You pour boiling hot water on, and you whisk it around with a fork, and it's magic. It just, you get this big pile of mashed potato appears from powder. It always really makes me laugh when it happens. So that is something you can eat quite easily. It's very smooth, not a lot of calories. I think it's only something like, it's only about 100 calories per, which is in this bag. It's only about 100 calories for the whole bag, I think. 180 grams. Yeah, so not the most, energy giving food, but it's something you can eat. And I normally have that anyway, so it's quite handy. The other thing which I forgot to mention, which is a big thing I'll show you now, is something I bought 3.5 years ago, and I've only used it once, but it could come in very handy after this operation. And it is this food mixer. The reason I only used it once is I used to live in a flat, and when I turned this on one day, I plugged it in and it was so loud. It used to shake I'm not joking, it was like a pneumatic drill going off. It shook the entire flat. It was like, what is that? It's so powerful, this 1000 watt motor is a lot for a mixer. It's got suckers on the bottom, you have to stick it to the surface. But the reason I'm going to use this, now I'm in this house, it's not so bad for the noise. If you can't eat because it's too painful, you can just put whatever you want in, and this can crush anything. It can crush ice. The one time I used it was to make a slush drink. So my idea is I might even make a sandwich, and if I can't eat it, I'm going to shove the sandwich in there, mix it to bits, and drink my sandwich. So I might be showing you that in the recovery stage. It's really good. It's got some cups, and the thing you mix it in is the cup. You've got 2 cups. It's really good, but I've never really used it. You can put ice, fruit, you can put almost anything in there. It's got a really funny instruction book as well, which is good for a laugh. You know how instruction manuals sometimes have those warnings, like a triangle with an exclamation mark, and it says warning. This is nothing but warning, 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 all down the page. And one of the funny instructions was, do not use if it doesn't work. Which I thought was quite funny. Anyway, so there you go, my food mixer. And the third thing I've got to talk to you about is something I'm doing for my preparation, which I think is really important. And this comes from my work as a therapist. Whenever you're going through something like this, something which you may not be looking forward to too much, or it's just something you've got to get done, it's really good to have a reward set. So think of something you are going to do after the operation, after your recovery. Now, it can be anything from going out to see a friend, going for a meal, going to the cinema, watching a film at home, reading a book. It can be anything you want to do, but have something positive to focus on. And if ever you are in a bit of pain or you're feeling a bit worried, you can always focus on that and think, when I come out the other side, that's what I'm going to do. So what's my reward? Well, I'm quite into photography, so my reward is when all this is done, I'm going to drive about 50 minutes down the road from where I live is an area called the Cotswolds. And it's, if you don't know, because people all around the world will be watching this video, it's an area of outstanding natural beauty, which is an area we have in England where it's like protected so you can't build on it and things like that. And it's just a beautiful place. It's ancient English villages, English tea rooms, you know, the typical, if ever you've watched things like Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot, it's the typical kind of murder mystery villages that you see in those, or Midsummer Murders, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go and visit one of those places and just go for a walk around, get some pictures. It'll just be nice to get out of the city for a bit. I only live on the edge of the city, so it's a nice area, but you know, just nice to get out and about because I've not been out for quite a while and I'm now in isolation for a few weeks. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say in this part of the video. The next part I do will probably be a week tomorrow when I've had my phone, what's it called, a pre-assessment they've called it. I'm going to ask them a few questions and I'll probably come back on that day and do some filming. I want to find out about the COVID test because I think they might just post it to you. I don't think you have to drive there if you don't want to. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you again soon in just over a week. I'm just going to go and relax, have a nice restful week, maybe sit in the garden, the weather's quite nice. But if I think of anything else, I'll add it in soon. Otherwise, see you again soon. Hello, so it's the 21st of July, just a day after I made the last video, but I've had a letter this morning from the hospital with some more news and information, so I thought I'd update you all on that. So first of all, it turns out the COVID test is going to be done at the hospital, so I've got to drive there 2 or 3 days before the operation, so I suppose that'll be the weekend before, and they do it there and then. So that's good news. I don't have to go through a drive-through centre, and I don't have to do it at home. You just drive there and get it done there. And in the letter as well, it also had some quite sort of strange information. Now, I think the letter was written back when it first began, back when all the pandemic began, so some of this is kind of out of date. But it's all about the transport, you know, I was talking about getting there and getting back. It's really weird. It says specifically, and it does say, by the way, don't leave your house at all, because I did say a few days ago that they said you can go out for walks. I don't know, because they said over the phone you can go out for exercise, but in the letter it does say don't leave your house at all, even for food. You can only leave in emergencies. But the letter's a bit confusing because it said when you go to hospital for the day of your operation, it says do not use public transport, do not use taxis, and don't get a lift off someone who isn't in your household. It says you must drive there in your own private vehicle. That's the only way you can get there unless you walk in if you live close. You must drive there in your own car, but you can't drive home afterwards. So I don't get it. How are you supposed to get home? Just imagine all these cars piled up in the car park and they're putting people back out. And it does say, by the way, I'll be out the same day unless there's any complications. So I'll be going in and coming out on the same day. But it's really weird. How are you supposed to get there and back? Now you might be thinking, well, most people would live with someone that can take them. If that's the case, if someone is going to take you into hospital for a lift, that person and the rest of your household also has to isolate for 14 days before they give you a lift. I just can't believe anyone's going to do that. Is anyone going to seriously take 2 weeks off work just to give you a lift into hospital? And I'm lucky because I live on my own, so I've got the whole house to myself and I don't have to think about isolating because I'm isolated anyway. But it seems really awkward about how you're supposed to get there. You can't get a lift off someone else. You can't get a lift with someone even if you live with them unless they have 2 weeks off. You can't get a bus, a train or a taxi. It's about 8.5 miles away, so I'm supposed to walk. That'll take about 2 hours to walk that. I don't know what they expect you to do, but like I said, the letter is probably a little bit out of date. So anyway, I just wanted to give that information. It's a week from now I will have the phone call, and it does say if you miss the phone call they will cancel your operation, so I'll definitely be up and ready for that. One more thing I've got to say is between the 2 days that I filmed the last 2 parts of this video, I just filled the fridge up with all my jelly and all the cold stuff I've got in the freezer, the freeze pops, and my freezer started making a funny sound, and I thought, don't tell me my freezer's going to break just when I need it the most. But I'm pleased to say the sound has gone back to normal, otherwise you'd be hearing it now in the background. It's quite weird because when I first had the fridge for the first 3 days, brand new, it made this weird like knocking sound. Didn't hear a peep from it in 3 years, and it started doing it again, and I think it was just because something had got stuck when I put so much stuff in, maybe a bit of ice or something had got stuck in one of the drawers and was making it rattle. But my fridge freezer is now fine and working again. So the next part of this video will be a week today when I have my pre-op phone call, so I'll talk to you then. Hello, so it's the 28th of July 2020 and I've just had my pre-op phone call, which lasted 24 minutes and 24 seconds. So we went through quite a few things. There's some new information I didn't realise. They said things like you need to bring in a dressing gown and slippers, and that's because when you have the operation done you have to walk through part of the hospital to the operating room, and if you don't know about this, the hospital gowns you get, they're just like basic gowns, and at the back they've got like a tie-up thing. It doesn't bother me at all, but when you're walking along the corridors everyone can see your backside because if you imagine like this, there's an opening in the gown there, goes all the way down, so it doesn't really bother me. But they said bring along a dressing gown to avoid any problems from that, and also some slippers. There's one thing they said which I had mentioned before, and I think I mentioned it before earlier in this video. They said you can't be alone for 24 hours after having the anaesthetic. So I'm actually going to go and stay at someone's house overnight and then come back here the next day. Not really a big problem. I sort of knew that anyway, but they did say the hospital I went to originally, which is not the one I'm having the operation done at, because again the NHS ones are sending you out to private hospitals, but the one I went to originally did say they'd probably keep you in overnight if you've got no one to go home to, but I don't think they do that because it will cost a lot more and they won't pay it, quite simply. I found out the operation I'm having costs £2,200, and I think if you go in and out on the same day it's cheaper, so obviously they want to keep the cost down. So I'm going in, and they said my operation's at 8, which is good. They said you'll go in at 7:15, the operation is at 8, you'll be awake again about 9, and I'll probably be picked up from the hospital about 1 PM. It's all dependent on the tests. They have to see you, go to the toilet once, you have to actually call a nurse the first time you want to go to the toilet, and they have to watch to make sure no blood comes out. I don't know if they watch, but they have to at least monitor you. They have to see you eat something and drink something, and they said they score the pain from 1 to 4, and you have to have it down to a 1 or a 2 before you go, or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, some information there. So that's the plan, to get picked up in the morning, go there, I'll be back home, well, the other home, not this home. I'll be back there at about probably 1:30, stay there overnight, and then come back here the next day. 2 more quick things. You know, I mentioned these thermal packs before. I said that it didn't say anything on them about how long to freeze them for. But when I remove them from the packaging, you can now see on the back it does say approximately 1 hour is required to freeze gel. So it is about 1 hour. You put those in the fridge for. All of this stuff I won't have for the first few hours, the first 24 hours, because I won't be here. But you don't need them because you've still got the anaesthetic wearing off in you. And the other thing is, you know, I said in the last video the fridge had been making a funny sound. and it stopped. 2 hours after I made that video, it started making the sound again. So nothing wrong with it. I moved the fridge forward and back. It's just because it wasn't level. The surface of the floor isn't quite level, and it's been fine now for a week. So my fridge is fine, not been making a sound at all. It's funny though how it was fine for 3 years, and then it just started making that noise. But anyway, my COVID test is on the 31st of July. So that's it's Tuesday today, that's on Friday. So I'll be making one more video in this part of the video, one more little section to record like this. And that will be when I've been for the COVID test. I'll probably wait till I've had the result, because there's not really much to say about having the test itself. You just drive there, they put a swab in your mouth and up your nose. So I'll wait till I've got the result, which will be, I think, Saturday. That'll be the 1st of August. And yeah, it's getting closer, it's getting more exciting, can't wait to get it done. So I'll see you again in a few days when I've got the results of my COVID test. Hello, so it's the 31st of July 2020 and it's the day of my COVID test. So I am going to do some filming in the car in a moment. I'm going to drive to the hospital, and I thought it would be nice to put some footage in from outside the house. So we're going to go for a drive in a moment. But a few things have come to mind that I forgot to mention from my pre-op phone call. The first thing is I did go through quite a bit of detail. As I said, it was 24 minutes and 24 seconds long, that phone call. And I did say that when you wake up, you'll have a drip going into your arm. And they did say you'll have an oxygen mask on. And I think they tell you that so you don't worry when you wake up, you don't think something's wrong. So yeah, there was quite a bit of things I went through. They did say as well they're going to do a sleep apnea test. And sleep apnea is when you stop breathing in the night when you're sleeping, I think, and they have to do a test for that. I don't know how they test that. I don't know if that'll be today or when I go in on Monday, because today's Friday, the operation is on Monday, so it's getting quite close now. And I have decided as well that I'm going to be making at least one sequel to this video. I've watched a lot of these videos now and they've all been really good, but apart from one, no one's ever done a follow-up after the tonsillectomy. So one person did one a year later, and I have heard apparently it takes a year to fully heal. So you won't be in pain for a year. It's not that you can't speak for a year, but apparently it takes a year to heal internally. I will check that with the doctor, because it sounds a bit off to me. I don't know, but I'll check that and I'll find out. So yeah, I'm going to go and have the test soon, but there's a nice little story, a nice analogy I thought I'd put into this video. I went out to the car just, and I haven't used it for so long. It's got cobwebs on the door handle, and there was a little hornet, like a little wasp or something, stuck in his cobweb. So I knocked the cobweb loose, and this little creature, little insect, fell to the ground. I came back in the house and I thought, that poor little thing was probably in a lot of pain. So I went back out and I thought, I might have to put it out of its misery. And I looked on the floor and he was running around all over the place, really happy. So I thought that's kind of like me when I've had this operation. I might be stuck for a little bit, but then I'll be free and I'll be back to how I used to be and happy. So yeah, let's get in the car, let's go for a drive, and I will tell you more then. Hello, so here I am on the way to hospital for my COVID test. And it's a good thing that I looked up the route yesterday, because I haven't used the car for quite a long time and the sat nav has frozen up a bit. I've had it before. It's when you don't use it for weeks and weeks. You just have to run the car for a bit before it works. But it's a good thing I know the way. I actually came here 30 years ago. It's funny because when they told me where it was going to be, I looked it up on Google Street View and I recognised it. I thought, I remember that. I remember waiting outside there for a taxi about 30 years ago. So yeah, a few more things I'm going to tell you in this video. I saw a video last night about tonsillectomy, and there was a really good tip that I wished I'd heard earlier, which is about when you buy food and drink, avoid red food and drink like red jelly. And the reason for that is that when you eat it, if you do cough it out for any reason, where you spit it out, it can make your saliva look red, and you might think you're bleeding. And half of the jelly I bought is red, so I'll keep that in mind. But I do have to say that the strawberry jelly flavour that I got, I'm going this way. I'll go around the back way for reasons I'll explain in a moment, because the hospital is actually just up there, but I'm going this way. I used to work around here, and I trained around here to be a driving instructor years ago, so luckily I know the area really well. So yeah, avoid red food if possible for that reason, although I think I'll be okay spotting the difference between a bit of jelly and blood. But yeah, the red stuff has got 90 calories in one little pot, whereas the other stuff, which is sugar free, only has about 9 calories, so you get more energy from the red stuff, I suppose. Just going to go down here. Now, why am I coming around this way? Well, you might remember, and it's a really warm day. It's going to open the window because it's 32 degrees today. You might remember my emergency backup plan, just in case on the day my lift doesn't turn up for any reason, which I'm sure they will. I don't doubt them, but if the car breaks down or there's traffic jams or whatever, this is my emergency plan: to drive down here and to park at the end of this road. You go into the road right, and what I'd have to do is leave my car in this place I'll show in a moment, which is a little dead end, so it wouldn't be in anyone's way. I've made sure I'll be out of the way. I could leave it here, or at the very end where I'm going to leave it today, and I'd have to leave the car here, somehow get a lift home or get a taxi home, and then, what's it saying, footpath? No, I thought it was saying footpath closed, but it's not. It's just saying, look over it, it's just saying about the traffic roadworks, whatever. So you could leave the car here, whereas you see it's out of the way. I would not really want to leave my car here for 2 weeks unattended, but if I really had to, I could, or get someone to come and pick it up or whatever. That's the emergency plan if all went wrong on the day, to park somewhere around here. I'm just going to walk down the road. It's now 10:34. I'm going to walk down and have my COVID test. I'll be back in about an hour from now. My test is at 11:15, so I'll see you then. Hello, so I'm back and it's 11:26. So I'm just going to get out of here and I'll tell you what happened. So yeah, it was quite easy. I went in and I could have parked there. There's loads of parking free and you don't have to pay, but like I say, I parked down here just in case. So anyway, I went in and I had to wait outside for 10 minutes because it was so early, and then they took my temperature, which I thought was going to be high because I've been standing in the sun. So I'm just looking what I'm doing, reversing before I speak too much. Yeah. So I went in, very simple. They simply, it's really, really hot. It's absolutely baking hot. It's over 30 degrees. So I went in, and the swab test was a lot easier than I thought it would be, because I had seen videos. What's this one doing? I've seen some videos where they were saying that you have to have this thing shoved quite hard up your nose, and it can hurt. But she did it in a very gentle way. She only rubbed it around the end of my nostril, and even when she did it in my mouth, she did it in my mouth first, because you don't want to put it up your nose then in your mouth. But she rubbed it around the inside of my mouth very gently, and then around the end of my nostril very gently. And I did say I thought you had to do it quite hard, and they said it changed 3 weeks ago. She said you're one of the lucky ones, because they've got a new method now where they only rub it very gently around the end of your nostril, and that's it. So you don't have to have it shoved up. She also gave me an envelope, which she said is quite a thick envelope, and she said it's got some information in about my op. So when I get home, I shall read that and I'll go through what that says with you. But yeah, that's all for now, so I'll see you when I'm back home. Hello, so I'm back from the hospital and I've got this envelope that they gave me, so let's open it and see what's in here. there's a lot in here. Basic information about hospital. Oh, it says about screening. That's for like basic hints and tips for going into hospital. This one is about compression stockings. Yeah, I've heard this. I think I mentioned this before. It says the doctor may ask you to wear compression stockings before surgery and to continue wearing them during your stay. And this explains what they are. Compression stockings, also called TED or thromboembolic deterrent stockings, are worn. They're usually worn to help maintain circulation and reduce the risk of blood clots. So yeah, these are like those socks you wear on aeroplanes to stop you getting blood clots, and this tells you all about these. Certain risk factors make it more likely, like if you're overweight, if you have a family history of it, if you have prolonged bed rest, surgery if it lasts more than 30 minutes. I think I'll be okay with that, because I think tonsillectomy is quite a quick operation. I won't read all this, I just wanted to see what it said. And it talks about stockings, how to put them on, whatever. And I think you get to keep them, so that's the thing about stockings. Infection control. This is all about, washing your hands, all that kind of thing. I won't read it all because you don't need to know all of this. Pain relief after your operation. This looks important. Yeah, this is a big book that I'm going to have to read about. Painkillers. I won't read it all, it's 18 pages long. I won't read it all now, that is. But I'll read this through tonight, and I'll go over any points that come up from this probably tomorrow. It says about the pain score they use. They ask you from 0 to 4. 0 is no pain, 4 is the worst pain imaginable. I know they have to get it down to a 1 or a 2, I think, before they let you go home. So yeah, I'll read through all this. It talks about strong painkillers, talks about worries. This is something I wanted to talk about, paracetamol. I've actually got a headache at the moment. I said earlier on that it was really hot. I've never known a day like this in my life. It's so warm, and I don't get affected by heat at all. I don't sweat. I can go for long walks without sweating, and I'm normally fine. But today it's 30 degrees. It feels about 50. I've never known a day like this. The wind is so hot. I was sitting outside, and when the wind blows onto your face, it's almost burning. It's unbelievable. And I have been to places like America. Yeah, it talks about I was going to have a paracetamol, but some people have said in videos, don't have anything like paracetamol or ibuprofen in the week-long run-up to the operation. Now, I know those people are not doctors, as I'm not a doctor. Maybe that's wrong, I don't know. But I think ibuprofen, it thins the blood, which is not what you want after an operation. But I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. It tells you loads in here. This is something I'm going to read. This will actually help me with my hypnotherapy work. It talks about nerve blocks and anaesthetic, because being a hypnotist is a bit like using anaesthetics, but of the mind. Yeah, so there's a lot of information there. It talks about nausea, sickness after surgery. Really good book. I'm pleased they gave me that. Anything I can, I'll link to in the description. I don't think that'll be online. What's this saying? It talks about your anaesthetic. What is anaesthesia? God, there's loads in here. That's one question answered. Anaesthetists. How would you say that word? Anaesthetists, of course. Anaesthetists are doctors with specialist training. I always wondered if they were doctors or if they did something, different to what doctors do. So loads of information in here. Before you come into hospital, there's loads to read. I'm going to have to spend a good hour reading through all this tonight. I've got 2 full days left till the operation, so I'll be reading through all this. Loads and loads of information there. That's really good. It staying well prior to your surgery. Yeah, that's all good. I've got the name of the nurse who phoned me the other day, that's good. Yeah, that's fine. They did tell me to drink some water before I went in, and I'm hoping he might say in here. Let's see. Don't think it does now. Oh, it does actually say, look in here. Do not take any over-the-counter medicines that contain aspirin or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, something such as ibuprofen, for 1 week before your surgery. They never told me that. Never knew that before. Do not take any herbal medicines for 2 weeks before your surgery. Yeah, well, I'm not taking any medicine, so I'm okay for that. I did check about the stomach, I said I had stomach pains. I told them I was taking that, and they said that would be fine. I haven't had one of those for over a week, though. So, yeah, he just talks about that. The one thing I was thinking he might say, they did tell me before you go in the morning to drink, I think they said 500 millilitres of water. I've got it written down. Pretty sure they said, don't drink after 6:15 in the morning of the operation, but they did say to drink 500 millilitres of water. Again, it may be different for you, so make sure you check that out. So I'm now just waiting for my COVID test results. I think they phone you with them, but I forgot to ask. It's a bit stupid, I forgot to ask them, but I'm sure they'll phone me with that result probably tomorrow morning, but I know they do them within 24 hours. So I'll be back with one more part of the video, of this part of the video, to let you know the result. I've got a few more details about how the rest of the video will be filmed, so I'll see you then. Hello, so it's the 1st of August 2020, the day after my COVID test, and the main news is that I haven't heard anything yet from them, so I suppose it was fine, or maybe they'll get the result tomorrow. I thought I'd have a text or a phone call from them, because they did text me before with a reminder of an appointment, so I haven't heard anything yet. There's a few more things I wanted to tell you about. The first thing is, I've got a bit of a secret weapon, I reckon, something I've never heard anyone talk about in other videos about tonsillectomies, and that is baked beans. Now, I was talking before about having lots of protein, and these are really high in protein. It says on the back, high in protein, high in fibre, low in fat, gluten-free. Now, the nurse who did my pre-op phone call did say in the 2 days before the operation, make sure you have things that are high in fibre. So I may have some of those tomorrow. I've just had some Weetabix. If you don't know what Weetabix are, because people will be watching this from around the world, they're just bits of wheat packed into really small little biscuits. They're about that big, and you can eat them. You're not meant to just eat them. You normally have them with milk or things, pour milk on them. It's a bit like cereal packed into a really small little bar. And yeah, I just had one of those. I tried eating one without any milk. I just put it in my mouth and ate it. It was a bit dry, so halfway through I had some squash with it, but I'm avoiding milk because milk clogs up your throat. I wanted to tell you as well some things about the leaflets that I read. I had all those leaflets and it took me about an hour to read through them. Well, I'm going to tell you a few things now which not everyone will want to hear. So if you are anxious about your operation, if you're a bit nervous about it and you worry about things, in a moment I'll tell you to put the volume down, because I'll tell people a few things that you may not want to hear. But one of the leaflets, it did say about the risks of general anaesthetic, and it made a great point. It said that you're more likely to be involved in a car crash than you are to have these things happen. It's like when I work with people who are scared of flying, and it's always funny how people are really scared of flying on a plane, and really, it's the journey to the airport that's the dangerous part. When you're driving there, that's when you're in more danger than when you're on a plane. Anyway, I'm going to say these things now, so if you don't want to hear these things, just turn the volume down and I'll put my hand up like that when it's safe to come back. It will only be about a minute or so, but turn the volume down now. So one of these pieces of paper, it was a bit funny in a way. It said about the risks of general anaesthetic, and it was saying about 1 in 10 people get dry throat or feel dizzy, and 1 in 100 people, feel ill or something, or feel sick or something like that. And towards the bottom it said, other risks include blindness and death. And it said, if you want to find out more about these things, go and visit this website. So I went and visited the website thinking it would probably put your mind at ease and tell you it's not that bad. And this website just listed more things that can go wrong, including statistics on when the operation fails because all the equipment fails, or the surgeon is ill, or all this kind of stuff. And I didn't read it all, I just looked at it and I thought, I don't need to know all that. So I might look back at that afterwards. But I don't think you really want to know about all those things. I have to tell you, and the risk is always there. There's always a risk, but it's very, very slim. So you're just going to get these people to come back who may be tuned out, and we'll move on to the next part of the video. So how am I going to film the next parts of the video, part 3, part 4 and part 5? Well, the plan is that I'm self-employed, as you probably know, I think I mentioned that before. So my operation is on the 3rd of August. I've booked myself off work for 4 weeks. I don't have a boss, I am the boss, so I don't have to really book time off. It's a massive advantage to have when you're going through things like this. But I've allocated myself 4 weeks off work. The plan is to spend the first 2 weeks recovering. During the 3rd week, I will be filming the rest of this video and maybe also recovering. And then on the 4th week, that will be my kind of summer holiday, just a week off to go out and do the things I mentioned earlier, like about going and doing my photography. I've got quite a few things planned for that last week. Or I may end up going back to work a bit early because it'll be quite nice just to get back in the swing of things after having been in this lockdown for months. So that's the plan. But I am expecting it to take 3 weeks for me to recover. So I may not get to film this until a bit later, but I want to get this video out by the end of August, if possible. There's no real rush. Like I said before, I have also decided to make at least one follow-up to this, so I'll be making another video, a totally separate video, away from this one, but I'll be linking to it at the end and in the description, and that video will be filmed probably around the end of September, and I may do another one a month after that, if there's any need to. I don't know how long I'll need to keep going on for, but it'll be nice to follow up and let you know how things went, for a month or 2 or several months after the operation. And it will also mean I can answer questions. If people have questions, I can maybe answer them in that video. So apart from finding out my COVID test, which I'll have to tell you about tomorrow, if there is no news, then I might just put some text on the screen now saying that there was no news, and I assume it's all fine. But I have got my bag packed here. Got this bag. It's like a TARDIS, this, especially these end parts. You can shove stuff in there and it never seems to get full. So I've got my dressing gown, slippers, pyjamas, toiletries, a book to read, some earphones, my battery, a bottle of water, all that kind of stuff. And my toothbrush, all that stuff is going with me. Because even if I don't end up staying overnight in the hospital, which I probably won't, but there's always that chance if your blood pressure's low or whatever, I will be staying away for the night with someone else. Then I'm coming back here the following day. So yeah, all that's left for me to do is tomorrow. You might just be able to see under the stairs I've got my food mixer there, ready to go. I'm going to set that up in the kitchen tomorrow, and I've got my ice cubes to put in the freezer. So we'll come back. I know I keep saying it's the last part, but I keep thinking of more things. I'll come back tomorrow with the results of my COVID test if necessary, and I am going to try and film during my recovery. I say try because one thing I've noticed in these videos is that a lot of people have set themselves back by talking too much during the recovery, and they've said that it really hurt the next day. So my plan is during the recovery to film a few videos, but I may not be speaking. I might do some where I talk just very briefly for 30 seconds, just say how I'm doing. I might film myself making some food or sitting here and just put text on the screen so you can see what I'm like each day. I really don't know, but the plan is to probably just get recovered and then just film it all in one go. Just sit down here, and part 3 will probably not be that long compared to this, and part 4 will be quite long. It's going to be day to day about the recovery, and part 5 will be all my tips and hints. So yeah, that's the plan. One more day to go, and then it's the operation the day after that. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, so it's the 2nd of August 2020, just coming up to 1 PM. It's the day before my operation, and in fact this time tomorrow I'll be waiting to be picked up to come home. So it's quite funny how it's come around so quickly. So I haven't heard anything from the hospital, so my COVID test was fine, because I think they only contact you if they need to let you know that you've got it and you can't come in. So it looks like that's worked out fine. And the last 2 days I've actually done a bit of a dry run for tomorrow. I've woken up at 3 AM the last couple of days because there was a bit of noise. I think somebody slammed the car door outside, and I don't know, I woke up early this morning, and it's worked out really well because I've had a bit of a practice for tomorrow. So I'm now used to getting up early. I've got to get up at 5 tomorrow to go out at 6. And one thing I'll say before we move on is that these 2 weeks have absolutely flown by. I can't believe it was 2 weeks ago tomorrow I made the video talking about the first day of my isolation, but I'll be talking much more about that in part 5, which is going to be full of my tonsillectomy tips and reflection on the process as a whole. So part 2 has been long enough. One final point I'll put in, just because it's relevant. One of the funny things it said in that letter, the big envelope that I had, it said, do not post anything on social media within 24 hours of having a general anaesthetic. So I think some people must have put things online that they regret when they're still under the influence of the general anaesthetic. But anyway, that's enough for part 2. Let's move on to part 3, the operation. Hello, it's the 3rd of August 2020, the day of my operation. I'm talking quietly because it's currently 5 o'clock in the morning, so I don't want to make too much noise, and I might be talking like this for the next week or 2 anyway, to try and save my voice while I'm recovering. So I've got my 500 millilitres of water ready to drink in the next hour before I get picked up at 6 o'clock. So the next part of this video, I'm going to be talking about the operation and what happened today. And over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be writing down, I've got a little notebook and pen, I'll be making notes about what happened, and I'll be filming as much as I can. But for now, let's get on with talking about today and the operation and what happened. Hello, so it's been a couple of weeks since I had the operation. It's now the 14th of August 2020, almost 2 weeks later, and as you can see, I've made a very good, fast recovery. Now we'll be looking at the recovery more next in part 4, but for now, let's go back to what happened on the day of the operation, just after you saw me in the last piece of video. So, I filmed that about, 5:30 in the morning, and some of these things I may have already said, but I'll go over them again. So on the day of the operation, I woke up at 2:30 AM, and I thought I may as well stay awake, and I got up at 4 AM. My lift turned up at 5:50, so I was really pleased. They were very early, so I was going to have a lot of spare time, because I asked them to arrive at 6. That would have been early anyway, and I got here even earlier than planned. We chose to drive. I've got all these notes on my phone, by the way, so I've got lots of notes I made on that day. We chose to drive across town to get to the hospital because we didn't want to risk there being any problems on the motorway. If we got a flat tyre or broke down or whatever, it would have been easier for me to just get a taxi there, from the town, rather than being stuck on the motorway. So the person who picked me up said on the way, have you heard the news about the isolation for operations? And apparently, just a few days before I went in for my operation, they changed the guidelines so you now no longer have to isolate for 2 weeks before an operation. Now, I did ask my consultant about this, and he said that while that's true, they are still recommending for the moment that people do isolate for 2 weeks because the guidelines are just changing over. So I arrived at the hospital at about 6:20, and I thought, I'm so early. Some of the staff were only just starting to go in, other people who work in the offices and whatever. They were just starting to go in. So I stood outside the hospital, and one of them came up to me after about 10 minutes and she said, "You can come in if you want." And I said, "I'm really early." It was only about 6:30. And I said, "I'm not supposed to be in till 7:15. But she said, "It's fine, you can come in." And she led me into the building. So they showed me to my room, which was only about 2 minutes to get to my room from the entrance. And it was a really nice room, and I'll show you the room on the screen now. As you can see, it's just like a hotel room. It's very posh, it had a nice TV, there was a fairly nice view out the window, and I had this bathroom with a lovely walk-in shower. It's like sort of stand-up wet room. Really, really good room, excellent facilities. I'd only been in there for about 10 minutes, and a man knocked on the door and came in. And he said to me, "Oh, I've forgotten something, so I need to go and get it." And when he came back about a minute later, he said something about, "Since we last spoke a few weeks ago." And I thought, who is he? And I realised he was a consultant I'd met at the hospital before. And I said, "Oh, it's you." And he said, "Yeah, you may not recognise me," because he had all of his face mask and everything on. And it was really nice to see someone I already knew. Not exactly a friend, a friendly face. Someone I'd known. I'd spoke to him for about 10 minutes before, a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I met the doctor. I asked him a lot of questions. I had, I think, 10 questions written down, and I'm going to tell you now what those questions were and the answers I was given to them. So the first question I asked was, "Is walking good for recovery?" And I said, yes, it's good if you can to get out and about and exercise. Not too soon, give it a couple of days, but get out and exercise. And these questions, by the way, were from a lot of videos I'd watched online, and I wasn't sure about some of the things people had said. Cornflakes, if you watched part 2, you'll know what I was saying about cornflakes. And I said, yeah, they're fine to eat. You can eat whatever you want, apart from spicy food. Don't go having a vindaloo, because that will be painful. I asked about milk, and they said if you want to drink milk, you can. And there's even one doctor, I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but bear in mind I have filmed this video in many different parts over the course of 2 months, so I can't remember everything I've said. But there is a doctor who made a video and put it on YouTube about tonsillectomies, and he said there's nothing wrong with drinking milk for some people. It depends on you. I should point out, though, that ever since the operation, my stomach pains have gone. So maybe that's because I've stopped drinking milk. I've stopped all dairy products. Although they said I could have them, I didn't want to have them myself, so I didn't. So it's up to you, depends on you, but there's nothing saying that you can't drink milk. I asked about staggering the pills, and this is something I wasn't sure about. I'd heard several people say in their videos that imagine you've got 2 pills to take, pill A and pill B, and you're only supposed to take them every 4 hours. And what some people have said is take pill A at 10 o'clock, then take pill B at 12 o'clock, then take pill A again at 2 o'clock. So you're kind of staggering the pills. So you're having one pill here and the other one in between. So rather than waiting 4 hours, you're staggering them so that you have more pain relief. And he did. The consultant kind of looked at me a bit weird and he said, "Why would you do that?" And I asked about, people have said it's a good idea to wake up throughout the night and set your alarm for 2 a.m. to wake up and take a pill. And the consultant I saw just went, "Why would you do that?" Because when you sleep, that's when your body is healing at its best. So why would you wake up and interrupt your body's natural healing to take a painkiller? And they said, "I don't really understand that, I don't recommend doing that." And I didn't. and I had a good night's sleep. Apart from 2 nights, I had great night's sleep all the way through. I would not say for me, again this is for me, there was no need for me to wake up and be taking pills. I asked, how long after an operation is an infection more likely? Because there's always this thing about you're more likely to pick up an infection shortly after having an operation. And they said, no, it's the same as normal. They said, you don't want to pick up an infection, but, stay away from people if you can for a week or 2. But apparently you are no more likely to pick up an infection. It's just that it will be more painful if you did, because you'd have that, plus you'd be recovering from this. I asked them if it was okay to take a shower to wash my hair, because I thought maybe the steam from the shower could somehow undo the stitches in my throat or whatever, and they said no, shower's fine. Is it a good idea to eat and drink even if it hurts when I'm recovering? And they said, yep, the more normally you eat, the better. If it hurts, it hurts. But they said you won't cause yourself any harm, it's just it might be painful to eat, but you can. Is it good to talk? Yep, they said you can talk if you want. One reason I'm making this video is I'm currently 12 days into my recovery, and as you can tell, I'm quite well. Not quite 100%, but I'm very pleased I'm making this video on day 12. I may sound a bit rough still, but only 12 days in and I can talk relatively normally. Bleeding, I asked what's normal and what should I do if I bleed, and they said if you get a little bit of blood, that's normal. If you get a little bit of blood, like when you spit, tiny flecks of blood is okay. If it's constantly bleeding, if it's dripping out, and especially if it's like a bright red colour, because that means it's fresh blood, not old, dried blood, then they said you do need to get to A&E quick. Now it is serious this. There is a risk of bleeding, even now, even though I'm just under 2 weeks after the op, there is a risk of bleeding, and it can be fatal. If you just leave it, you can bleed to death after a tonsillectomy. It only happens to 1 in every 100 people, the bleeding. And I understand it's normally if you haven't been eating and drinking as much as you should. So that's why I push myself to do that. I asked, am I having my adenoids removed? They said no. Adenoids are something, the top of your throat. You sometimes have them removed at the same time as tonsils, but I didn't. And I asked about my diagnosis, when will it be, and they said about 10 days. It's been over 10 days, but they said they would call me. They said I won't have to wait to go into hospital for that. They'll phone me. And I did ask about COVID and the anaesthetic, and they said the risk is if you have COVID and it's active when you have the anaesthetic, that's when it's a danger. So that's why they do a test for COVID several days before the operation. And they said, if you've got COVID and you have a general anaesthetic, but COVID is not active, you'd probably be okay. And they said that if you don't have COVID, let's say you pick it up from one of the surgeons during the operation, even that would not be that dangerous. The danger is if you have COVID and you're coughing and whatever, and the virus is active as you have the general anaesthetic, that is what we think is the danger. I asked them what would happen if I caught COVID today in hospital and you developed symptoms in 5 or 6 days from the time I had the operation. And they said, well, that would be quite painful to be recovering from a tonsillectomy and COVID, but it probably wouldn't be any more dangerous. So probably, because we don't know, it's all very new, but that's the questions I asked them. So once I'd finished my questions, I signed a form to say I knew I was about to have an operation and I was happy with things. They then sent in a nurse to measure me for my stockings, because you have to wear these compression stockings which help to stop you get DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis. So simply when you have an operation, if you're not that active after the operation and you're sitting around a lot, you may develop blood clots, which can be fatal, but they give you these stockings to help prevent that. And I had a really great nurse. He was ever such a nice guy, and we was talking, and I did actually play a joke on him, because one thing you'll find is that they ask you over and over again what operation you're having. You'll be asked that question at least probably 5 times. Different people keep asking you to make sure they've got it correct, make sure they're aware. And this nurse I saw said that he had OCD, and he said he likes to get everything, correct, and he was checking the paperwork. And he said to me, "What operation are you here for?" And I thought, I'm going to wind him up because I'm sick of answering this question. So I said, "I've come for a vasectomy." And he had his paperwork, and he was looking a bit like this, and he said, "There's been a terrible mistake here." And I said, "I'm only joking, I've come for a tonsillectomy." And he laughed about it, and he said, "You want to be careful to get the right end." So anyway, he said they had a list of people, and they do something they call the huddle, where all surgeons and anaesthetists get together, and they decide, like before a football game or whatever, they all get together and decide who's going to go first. But I said my name was first on the list. I then saw another couple of people. There was an anaesthetist and another doctor came in to see me, all people that were going to be present during the surgery. And it's quite funny how every one of them kept saying to me, "Don't worry, it'll be fine." And next one came in, "Don't worry." And what the anaesthetist said, "Don't worry, there's less than a 1 in 10 chance of anything going wrong." And everyone kept saying to me, "Don't worry." And I wasn't worried at all. As you can see in this short video clip, I took this when they told me, this was when the last person had come to see me, and they said, "You'll have a knock on the door in a moment, and then there'll be time for you to come and have your operation." So I changed into my gown. You're allowed to keep your own underwear on, but you've got to change. It's the hospital gown, and I had my dressing gown on, and here's a clip of me waiting to go in and to be called in for my surgery. Yep, so just waiting to go in, just waiting for a knock on the door. Come and knock on the door, say I'm good to go in. So see you soon. So soon after I filmed that, there was a knock on the door, and I walked out, and I was actually following the wrong person, because I'd taken my glasses off because I'm short-sighted. I left my glasses in my room, and I was following someone else into a staff area, and he said, "Oh no, don't follow me, follow him." And I was following the wrong person. So I walked down the corridor, went through a couple of doors, and this is when it all gets quite real, because you walk into the operating theatre. Now, although I'm short-sighted, I could still see a bit of what was going on. I could see the bed they wanted me to lie on, the table, whatever you call it, so I can operate in bed. And there was quite a few people walking around in their masks and their gowns and the visors because of all the virus that was going around. And they told me to lie down on the bed. And then they did something quite surprising. They put an oxygen mask on me, and they said, "Can you just start breathing this in quite deeply, and you'll start to feel quite lightheaded." Now, I thought they only did that with people that had trouble with injections, and I had made it clear I've got no problem having injections, because if you do have a problem with that, they give you this gas. I don't know what it is, but it kind of makes you feel really lightheaded, and so you don't feel the injection. But they gave me the gas anyway. And I remember I was lying down thinking, I felt really relaxed. I thought, this is it. I thought, my lift arrived, I'm here, the surgeon's here, it's all gone to plan. And I just felt really relaxed. And I remember I started counting the ceiling tiles for something to do. There was 5 across, and I started counting 4 along. And I remember one of these surgeons asked me, if you weren't having this done, what would you be doing at this time of day? And he made me laugh, because whenever you do a driving test, that's the question the examiners ask you. And they asked me that, and it was quite hard to understand them because they had these masks on, and I had to keep saying sorry because I was kind of half out of it with this gas, and they were having to really shout to be able to be heard through these masks. And it's a really nice moment, because in the run-up to this, I've been sort of, switching from being a driving instructor to being a hypnotherapist. And when they asked me, what do you do for a living, what would you normally be doing? I remember I just said, I'm a hypnotist. I always remember that, and I thought, when I wake up, that's what I'll be, because I'm not going to have this doubt about changing my jobs and what am I doing? When I wake up, that's what I'll be. And that was a really nice moment for me. And they didn't count down to 10 like before. They said they were going to count down from 10 to 1 over the phone when I had my pre-op. They said they'll count down from 10 to 1, but you only get to about 4, about 6, 7, and you go to sleep. Now this is how I remember it. This is how the anaesthetic worked. I was lying there, looking up at the ceiling, counting the tiles for something to do. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in the recovery room, and it's just like you've blinked, and about an hour and a half had gone by, and I hadn't even known. It's really weird. It's like you're sitting there, lying there, and you just go. And in that moment, an hour and a half has gone by, and it's really strange to think that when you close your eyes, you had your mouth opened, they took your tonsils out, they lifted me up and carried me onto a different bed, pushed me back into the recovery room, and I didn't know anything about that. And I can confirm as well that for the second time of having a general anaesthetic, I didn't dream. I had no dreams at all, because people often have this question, do you dream during general anaesthetic? Well, I didn't, not at all. So I woke up, and it was very much like I described my last operation, if you saw that part of the video. When I first came round, I was like this. And I could just about get my left eye open like that. And I couldn't kind of make out what was going on. And I honestly thought that I'd woken up in bed that morning at home. And I thought I was just about to go out and have my lift. And then I thought, hold on, I've already woken up. And I was like this, and I could see a nurse walk up, and she asked me, "You okay?" And I went, and then I started to open my right eye, and I couldn't work out whether I was at home or not. It's really weird. You're completely out of it. You can't work out where you are and what's going on. And I remember hearing someone talking about cutting their hair, because there's always been this thing about lockdown, hairdressers not been available, and they were talking about cutting their hair and cutting the son's hair. And I remember after about 10 minutes, I finally realised I was in hospital, and it was such a great feeling. I thought, I've done it. This is it. This is the other side. I've had the operation done. And I could see this huge clock. It was a massive circular clock, an old-fashioned analogue clock with hands. It must have been about that big, because even with my glasses out, my glasses not on, and my lenses out, my contact lenses out, I could still see the hands on the clock saying about 10 past 10. So I went in about 8:40, so I was unconscious for about an hour and a half. Now I did have a very dry mouth when I woke up, and they gave me a cup of water with a straw, and that was really nice. And one thing that's really important to note is my vision was very blurry, even after I put my glasses on. Now this is something I'm glad. I watched a video the day before I went in, and I'm so glad someone told me this, so I want to pass this on to you so you know about this. When I put my glasses on, now they wheeled me back to my room after about 10 minutes after I'd woken up, and that's really fun. So I've been on a go-kart. You're going down the corridors on this trolley, and there are, by the way, apparently 3 ways that people respond to a general anaesthetic. Some people wake up feeling very tired, which is what happened to me. Some people wake up and they're crying. Now you're not aware of this, you're not upset about anything, you don't know that you're sad, but it's just your eyes are streaming tears. And another way is people get delirious and people start shouting funny things, well, not shouting because you've had your throat operated on, but people start saying funny things about, they've got to get home quick because they've got a delivery coming from Father Christmas and all this. People start saying these really weird things. So I wonder which one you will be. Will you feel tired? Will you be crying? Or will you be delirious? But anyway, they wheeled me back to my room, and when I put my glasses on, I still couldn't see. And that was quite worrying. I had my glasses on, and it was as blurred as when I didn't have them on. And I remembered someone saying about it's a bit funny after you wake up, and I said to the nurse, my eyes, I was really struggling to speak, and I just said, my eyes are blurry. And I said, oh, that's fine. And he went after about half an hour. My eyesight was back to normal. And I will show you some video now. This is me waking up. This is about an hour after I had my operation, an hour after I woke up. This is a short bit of video that I filmed. Just woke up. Not too bad. My nose is a bit sore. My vision's a bit blurry. But I'm okay. Very confusing. Don't know what day it is. Didn't know where I was. So soon after that, they offered me some more water and tomato soup. I was quite surprised by that because I wasn't expecting to be offered hot food, but that's when I found hot food was really, really good. That actually helped more than the cold water did, and I had a blackcurrant drink as well. They also give you a kind of bottle for if you need the toilet because you can't get out of bed for the first 2 or 3 hours. So they gave me this bottle. It's like a big cardboard tube you can use to go to the toilet in bed. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Now I noticed the inside of my nose felt really tight. Like when you have a cold, it was all bunged up. But that only lasted about half an hour, then it went. My bottom lip was really swollen. I remember one of the nurses said to me, your lip's very swollen. And it felt like I had a cut there, right down the middle. It felt like I split my lip. I couldn't see a cut, there was no blood, but my lips were very swollen. My upper body was fine, it's just my legs were heavy and below my chest felt pretty bad. And the nurse actually said to me, this is before I went in, the nurse did say to me, the really nice nurse I had a bit of a joke with, he said to me, it's times like this when the healthy lifestyle you've had, well, you'll reap the rewards from it. Because I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol, I exercise regularly, and they said that my stats were very strong when they put this thing on your finger to take your, I don't know what is, oxygen levels, whatever, and as you do your blood pressure. They said, wow, your stats are really strong. And they said, you know, are you an athlete? And I've had that twice before when I've been in hospital. They've said, are you an athlete? I don't know why, but I'm very, very fit and healthy. And they said to me, if you are a smoker or a drinker, this is when you pay for it because the recovery is apparently much worse for smokers and drinkers. And if you want to get rid of that, stop smoking and drinking at least a week before the operation. But yeah, the pain was a 2 out of 10. It wasn't that bad at all. I had some jelly as well. He gave me some jelly. The pain got worse after about an hour about waking up. But then it got better an hour after that. So it does kind of come in waves. It comes and goes. You went to a 4 out of 10 for the pain, and you never went above the number 4, during my recovery and during the operation or whatever. It never went above 4. I did have no loss of taste at all. And they did say to me, the doctor did say, you shouldn't really have a loss of taste, because I've heard a lot of people say they lost the taste for weeks. And they looked a bit confused when I asked that question. That's another question I asked earlier I've got to tell you about. And the doctor said, you shouldn't have a loss of taste. That's not a normal thing apparently to have. What does happen though is your taste changes because your tongue is so swollen and you've got dried blood in your mouth. You don't lose your taste, but it does change for the first week. So yeah, you don't lose your taste. I just had to reset the camera, sorry. So you might notice the chair has moved and the angle's a little bit different. Just had to reset the camera. You don't lose your sense of taste. It just changes a bit. And you have this, it's like having stale water in your mouth all the time. Your saliva seems to go stale. And everything you eat for the first week or so, it's as though it's had like stale water poured over it. So things can taste a bit bad. So yeah, I continued to rest in my bed and I stood up at 2 p.m. That was a big achievement. You feel like texting people, I've done it, I've stood up. It sounds really funny, but when you come around from this operation, you can't stand up for a while. That's what I was going to say about that thing, the going to the toilet. There's something about having a general anaesthetic that stops you from being able to go to the toilet. So I just couldn't have a wee for ages. And I kept wanting to go. I felt like I wanted to go. And I had this bottle, and I put it on the bed, but you just can't go. Maybe because you're lying down in bed. It's not a natural position, is it, to be using the toilet, lying down in bed. And I kept trying to go, and I felt like I was bursting, but I just couldn't go. So what I did is, when I could stand up, I actually stood up and tried to go, and I still couldn't go. And it was about 3 p.m. So I woke up. The last time I went to the toilet was about 8:30 in the morning, and again it was about 3 p.m. the next time. And I remember standing up and thinking, I've got to go, and I couldn't make it to the bathroom because I was still plugged in to this drip. I had an IV drip plugged into me. So I could have wheeled it to the bathroom, but I didn't feel too stable on my feet. So I was standing up, and they leave the door to your room open so they can look in and make sure you're okay. Now these nurses were walking up and down the corridor, and it reminded me of an old computer game I played years ago called It Came from the Desert. And there was a section where you're in a hospital and you have to escape the hospital without the staff catching you. So this overhead view of this video game where you've got to run out of hospital. And I'll put a link to that in the description below if I can find one. And I started playing that game because I was having to wait for a nurse to walk past, get on my bowl and think, right, I've got to go. And I eventually went. Not much, but a bit. But yeah, that was a problem that was to last for a while. It lasts for at least 24 to 48 hours after the operation. It's very hard to use the toilet. So, let me just see. That's most of what I wrote down. The time passed really fast. They came into my room at about, the consultant came back in. He came back in at about, I can't remember the time, it was about 2 p.m. And he said to me, he'd had a look at the tonsils, and he said they look fine, because I'm having this done for diagnostic reasons. And he said, don't worry, they look fine from what I could see. So it's still probably nothing, but I'll know for sure when we've done the biopsy, or whatever it is. Now, they said at about 3 p.m. that I'll be ready to go home quite soon. And the only reason it took so long, because I've heard of people going home 2 hours after the op. I don't see how they can do that, because I had this saline drip going into my arm to keep me hydrated. And that took about 3 hours for the drip to go into my arm. So, yeah, it was about 3 o'clock. They said, if you want to start contacting someone to come and pick you up, I think they said that you can be picked up from about 4:30. So I sent a text to the person picking me up, and the time just goes really fast because you're lying in bed, you are all woozy and weird. But about 4 p.m, a nurse came in and gave me my painkillers, and they gave me 4 things. They gave me a box of paracetamol, a box of ibuprofen, a spray called Diflam, which is this spray like a throat spray for sore throats, and codeine. And I never used the codeine or the throat spray. I've still got them in case I need them because I'm still recovering. But as you'll see in my recovery diary, I only ever used paracetamol and ibuprofen. Now, one of the nurses did ask me if I wanted a hand carrying my bag to the car. And I thought, you know what? I felt so good. I thought, I bet I could even drive myself home. I wasn't going to, but I felt really good and I felt back to normal. And when we walked down the corridor, this nurse was walking next to me. And after about 20 steps, I suddenly felt very lightheaded. I felt like, whoa, and the room was spinning. And I thought, no, wouldn't be a good idea to drive home. And that's why you've got to be careful. You can feel absolutely fine and have a sudden, regression or whatever. So we drove home, and it was great. I got home about 5 p.m. I stayed at my mum's house. And the only problem I had was hiccups. I kept going to burp, but I couldn't. And I was like this, I was going like that. It's quite a common thing to have, but the air wasn't coming out. It was all building around here. And when I've been home for about 2 hours, I just sat watching YouTube on my phone. I just wanted to relax. And I read a book. And I knew I was going to be sick. I could feel that horrible feeling when you know you're going to be sick. So I got up, walked into the bathroom, stood over the sink, and I went to be sick, and it felt exactly the same as when you're sick. But all that happened is I had this massive burp come out, which lasted about 1 second, and then I had about 5 tablespoons of blood poured out of my mouth, and I could feel it running, and I was quite concerned at that stage because I was bleeding, and it was running out quite freely, and I was almost getting ready to call an ambulance, and he just slowed down and stopped, and I felt great. I just felt like a massive weight had been lifted, and that was it. That was the only time I had any bleeding up to this point. I'm recording this on day 12 of my recovery. That's the only point I had any bleeding, and that was it. And I'd like to say that if you are worried about the operation, don't be. The whole experience was brilliant from start to finish. At no point was I worried or scared. It was great. The staff were great. And I've heard this from all over the world in videos that I've watched. No one's ever seemed to have had a bad experience. So if you are worried about the operation, don't be. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. Now the rest of it I will talk about in my recovery videos. So in the next part of this video, you're going to see a series of videos I filmed on the first 14 days of my recovery. So let's move on to part 4, my recovery diary. Hi everyone, so it's day 2 of my recovery, the day after the operation. I can't talk any louder, but I feel great. I feel like 10 out of 10. Physically I can move, walk, my throat's not even that sore, it's just if I use my voice more, it hurts, it's kind of swollen, but I feel great. Since yesterday, last night, my first night, I woke up about every 90 minutes, having to go to the toilet again, as I was mentioning in day 1. The pain's like a 2 out of 10 today. It's really not bad at all. I've had 2 paracetamol this morning and 1 ibuprofen, and I've had 2 jellies easily for my breakfast, and I'm finding already that hot food is a lot better than cold food. Jellies are great and the ice lolls are great. I don't like those protein drinks I got. They taste vile, so I'm not going to have those probably, and I'm not keen on the applesauce. So surprisingly, hot food is a lot better. It's actually easier to swallow. They gave me some soup. Like I said, I haven't made, when you watch this, I haven't made a day 1 yet, because I'm making that one. I could talk better towards the end, as like an introduction. But they gave me some hot soup in hospital, that was really nice, tomato soup. And they have actually won awards for their food, I could see why. But I feel great. I mean, this is only barely 24 hours after the operation. I could walk, I'm eating, I had scrambled eggs for dinner. Easily just break a couple of eggs, whisk them up, put them in a pan, and then eat them. And it's so easy to make and it's easy to eat. The hot food actually helps your throat to sort of get less tight, I find. You do have to swallow quite hard like that, but it's not too bad. So yeah, in terms of the toilet stuff is back to normal. I no longer go to the toilet every 90 minutes or every 5 minutes. That's all back to normal. I still haven't used strong medication yet, and I feel really good. Even though I may not sound it, I feel great and I can eat. I've got mashed potatoes, I'm going to have some pasta later. And yeah, I feel like 24 hours after the operation, I feel absolutely fine.
I know everyone says that the pain comes at about day 5, so I am preparing for that, but I feel great. I don't feel any different in my throat at the moment because it's so swollen. I can't really tell any difference. Friday and Saturday are supposed to be really hot days like before, so unfortunately, like the one I did before when I went for my COVID test, when it was really hot, it's going to be 30 degrees plus, so I'm hoping that day 5 is not painful, but at least I can sit out in the sun if it is. Yeah, try not to laugh. Laughing is not good. I haven't made part 1, I haven't made day 1 of this yet. But when I do, something happened last night to do with my breathing, and I don't want that happening again. But yeah, everything went really well, so I'll be back tomorrow to talk about day 3. It'll be interesting to see how it goes to about day 14. You can probably hear my nose crickets because my nose is a bit bugged up because I've had all this stuff done. But yeah, so I'm feeling really good. Maximum pain today so far has been 2, maybe even only 1 out of 10. It feels really good because I did a clean job. I can see the scabs now. I'm going to stop talking now and I'll be back tomorrow for day 3. Hello, so it's day 3, Wednesday, the 5th of August 2020. It's 1 PM. My throat's still sore, so I can't speak much, so I'll keep this quite short. So I woke up at 5 AM. I went to bed at 10 last night, went to bed at 9:30, but went to sleep at 10. Woke up at 5 this morning, so I had a long sleep. Feeling very, very tired when I woke up. I felt more tired than yesterday. I was having these strange, what I call half dreams. It was really weird. When I woke up, I could decide what I wanted to dream. So I could think about something and lie back in my bed with a V pillow. That's been really good. I'll put a picture on the screen now of how I've had that, and it's been really, really good. But I found that I could lie back and I could think about something, and I could kind of decide what I wanted to dream. It was weird. I could shut my eyes and I was instantly in the dream, and it was real. It was just like a dream, but I could still dream and then wake up and then go back into a dream. And when I woke up, it felt like the people from the dream were in the room. It's really weird. It's apparently a side effect of anaesthetic sometimes, like hallucinations. It was like that. It was very, very strange. I couldn't really get up. I felt really, really tired, so sort of a bit worse this morning. I'm pleased to say I can't shave as normal. When I shave my face, that doesn't hurt. Or brushing your teeth, well, that's fine. Bit sore, but good. My throat, I still feel good. I feel healthy. I feel fit. I had 2 paracetamol. I did a big shop, and they do say, don't do anything big after surgery. Like, don't make a choice. Don't make a will. Don't get married. And I can see why, because you do feel a bit weird. Like the way you're thinking and your perception of things is a bit weird. The pain's only been 2 out of 10 still. Yesterday, after I spoke to you, you have to swallow like that because your uvula, that thing that hangs at the back of your throat, is huge. It's about that big, and I can feel it sort of in my throat. It's quite hard to speak and swallow. Yesterday I had some crisps. I'll actually go and get these crisps now, and I'll be back in a moment. So I had these crisps, Fuzzles. If you're in America and other parts of the world, you might call these potato chips, but we call it crisps. Chips to us are what you call fries, what you have in burgers, but they're crisps. They're really good because they kind of melt in your mouth, and they're quite high toes, whatever. But they're really nice anyway. I have them all the time, and they just melt in your tongue, so they're easy to swallow. I also had 2 potato waffles with 2 fried eggs, and that was really good. I still find hot food is fine, not too hot, let it cool down. But hot food's good, and I had that for breakfast this morning. Probably was a bit too hot this morning. It did burn the top of my mouth a little bit, but the pain was only been that 3 out of 10 at the worst. I managed to change my socks. I'll put a picture on the screen now. You might have seen this before. The socks I'll be wearing are the what do you call them? The compression socks. They're quite easy to change. I'll probably do a video of me changing those to show you. I don't know. But yeah, so I still feel pretty good. It's a bit swollen. My tongue's got a lot better. Because people say that you lose your taste. I haven't lost the taste at all. It's just my tongue was swollen a bit. So things tasted a little bit different yesterday, the day after the operation. But now it's all fine. I can taste things fine. And I would have spoken about that earlier in the video. I am one more thing. I was going for a walk today. That was my aim. But I do feel quite dizzy when I stand up if I walk more than a few feet. You do feel a bit lightheaded and dizzy. So I'm not walking today. I may go for a walk tomorrow, but I'll probably do it Friday because tomorrow I've got my food delivery coming. I've ordered lots and lots of things like jelly. Jelly's great, by the way, after you've had a hot meal. I recommend having a cold jelly after a hot meal. But yeah, I'll aim to do a walk on Friday, if not tomorrow. But I don't feel that good at the moment. I feel fine, but I think in terms of walking, you feel a bit tired and dizzy when you go for a walk. So that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 4, the 6th of August, and I still feel good. I was feeling better, but I just had a home delivery, a big shopping delivery, and it's surprising how much it takes out of you. I felt really good until after that, and now I feel a bit tired, and I can speak better. I can actually use my voice a bit like normally, but I'm going to keep this quite short today because it's just starting to hurt just a little bit. So, after yesterday's video, I had beans and mash, really good meal. I went to bed at 8:30, woke up at 11. Now I didn't take any painkillers because I had some about 5 and I didn't know if it was too soon to take any more. And I think that's why I woke up at 11. I went to bed at 8:30 because I was very tired. And then I went back to sleep till about 5. So definitely have painkillers before bed. I've had eggs and bacon for breakfast. I found hot chocolate is very good. I don't normally have instant hot chocolate because I like the hot chocolate that you make with milk. But I had a can of instant hot chocolate and I tried putting an extra teaspoon in and it normally doesn't taste nice, but it tastes really good. So instant hot chocolate, great way of staying hydrated. Let it cool down for 5 to 10 minutes. I've used my ice packs, they're good because my cheeks are swollen a bit, and I've had an email from the hospital saying that I can use photos I took there and I can use the video that I took there in my video. So I still feel good. I still haven't had that much pain. I know the scabs are going to start coming off in a few days, but I still feel good, so it's all the same. I had, like I said, good breakfast, bacon and eggs. Everything is going very well. I'm just waiting for tomorrow, which is day 5, when a lot of people say it gets more painful, so we'll see. Hello, so it's day 5, the 7th of August. So, I've been using that feet pillow a lot. I actually went to sleep yesterday about 4:30. I went upstairs just to lie down, and I didn't mean to, but I went to sleep for about an hour. Then I used that pillow. I'll put a picture on the screen now, so you can see how I lie on that. And I felt really, really tired when I woke up. I've noticed how my eyes, on the day of my operation I noticed this, my eyes have started bulging, the eyelids have been really swollen. And sometimes you may have that thing like I do, where it stings if you wear contact lenses, and sometimes you might know you get infections and your eyes just sting for like a minute or two. Sometimes, if you have that, you'll know what I mean. I've had that quite a few times. My eyes have been burning because they're all inflamed. My eyelids are inflamed. This thing at the back of the throat is really big at the moment, so I'm going to keep this quite short today. It did actually hurt a bit more this morning. I'd say when it was about a 4. It was funny because I didn't have any pain. And then when I got up, it suddenly kind of spiked. It went up to about a 4. But I used the ice packs. And I found putting them, wrap the ice pack, wrap a tea towel around the ice pack, and I held it there, and I also held it on my cheek, which seemed to help a lot. But yeah, when you get up, the pain does seem to spike. So I'm definitely going to have a painkiller before I get out of bed. It seems once you get up and start moving, it does hurt a bit, but it doesn't last long, the pain. The cornflakes, I had cornflakes for breakfast, dry, just cornflakes on their own is fine. I still feel very tired. I'm not going for a walk just yet. If you walk more than about 10 paces, you just feel tired, dizzy. You just can't walk very far. And today I'm going to have fish fingers and peas for my tea. And I have been using Hypnotist for the pain, and that's been really good this morning. When I woke up and I was in a bit of pain, I did some hypnosis before I had a pill, and that really worked. So I'm going to keep doing that. So yeah, the pain got a little bit worse today, but it didn't last long, and the scabs should be coming off sometime from tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the 6th day, and it's normally about 5 to 7, 8, whatever days the scabs come off. I can use my voice normally, but only for a bit, and I don't want to set myself back. So, we'll see how we go tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 6, the 8th of August. Last night I had a bit of a stomachache when I went to bed, and I'm not surprised because of the number of pills I've been taking, and even though I've been eating quite well, it's been a bit disrupted, so a very slight stomachache, only about 1 out of 10 for pain. And I had it this morning as well, but I had some Rennie, those indigestion tablets, a couple of those, and it helped. I found that eating tortilla wraps on their own is quite nice, just have a wrap without anything in it. And I meant to say yesterday, I think I put this, I did put it in the text on the screen yesterday, but the constipation has gone, because since the general anaesthetic I had on Monday, I didn't go again to the toilet until yesterday, Friday, but now that's all back to normal. So, I am almost halfway through the recovery now, and I can speak normally, but I don't want to, because I could feel something at the back of my throat, which is either the scab coming off, or it's my uvula again, bouncing around. I am feeling better, but I'm still very tired. The tiredness is what's getting just, like when I do a word search, you look at the word and you just get very confused and tired, and anything you do, that's what gets you when you lie in bed in the morning. When you wake up, you're okay, but as soon as you get out of bed, you're exhausted. Even just answering emails, I've had some work emails to answer, and you get exhausted just typing an email. You just can't stay awake for very long, and I'm not going to sleep during the day. I am staying awake, but it's very hard to don't go for walks, don't drive. You're not going to be driving for at least a week or two after this operation. So I'm just taking it easy. Next big thing is for the scabs to come off, which may be tomorrow or Monday or whenever. But it's going very well. I'm very pleased with how it's gone. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 7, the 9th of August 2020. So I had a bad night last night. I couldn't get to sleep. I went to bed at 8 o'clock because I was so tired, and I just kept waking up every 90 minutes, and I had quite a lot of pain. It wasn't too bad again, 3 out of 10 as before, but it was a bit of a rough night. I slept without my compression socks on for the first time. I don't think I really need those because I'm still moving around, and they did say I was very low risk from blood clots, but I'm starting to come off those now. But this morning has felt very different. After a bad night, I do feel as though today has been a bit of a shift, because when I got up out of bed, I could feel the back of my throat. Something moved. I think the scabs are starting to come a bit loose, and it's not hurting as much. I had 2 lots of pills last night. I took some about 11 o'clock and then about 3 in the morning, or 4 in the morning, I can't remember. And the pain seemed quite bad. But then today, even though I haven't slept much, I feel great. I feel much more wide awake. I feel almost back to normal, no tiredness, even though I didn't sleep, which is a bit strange. Very much like on the night of my operation, I didn't sleep much, and I felt better the next day. So yeah, I found that those ice packs are good for breakfast. Not to eat, but ice packs are good when you have breakfast. I took them out of the freezer. It lasted for about 2 hours. Easy, even it's quite warm day. It's about 28 degrees today. And the heat hasn't made any difference. I did not bother buying a humidifier because I'm in England and it's not that dry. It's been up to 32 degrees during my recovery. Hasn't made any difference at all. So it depends where you are in the world, the weather I suppose. But yeah, this is the end of my first week, and I cannot believe how fast it's gone. It was a week ago. Tomorrow I had the operation, and I did say that I hope my recovery goes as fast as the build-up. It's gone faster. I swear the operation was only yesterday. I cannot believe it was a week ago tonight that I was setting my alarm, getting ready to get up and go to hospital. I found that chocolate bars hurt. If you chew a chocolate bar, they cause a bit of pain. And I have had a bad taste in my mouth, which I don't know if I mentioned before, but ever since the day of the operation, your saliva goes stale. It's like having stale water in your mouth. I mentioned this earlier in the run-up, the part 2 of the video. That taste is now really going. I never lost my taste. I don't think you lose your taste, it's just that your taste changes because you get this stale saliva in your mouth all the time. But that's now going and it feels better. So I think the scabs are going to come off later today or tomorrow. I still don't feel like walking just yet. And again, I can speak better than this, but I'm just saving my voice. So I'll see you again tomorrow.
Hello, so it's day 8, the 10th of August, and as you can tell, I could talk a little bit better, but I am going to keep talking like this, because I don't want to push my voice. I can talk better like this, but it hurts. It doesn't hurt, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable, so I'm going to talk quietly. So it's a week since my operation, and I had some fish for tea last night. It was really nice, tasted great. Same breaded fish that I normally have, but it tasted really good. I had no pills yesterday until about 10 p.m. I had 2 paracetamol at 10 p.m. and it's definitely changing. There's far less pain, especially in the mornings. I had 2 out of 10 for pain. It was almost nothing. Even when the pain does come on, it hurts less and for less time. So that's all I need to say for today. But it's been a week since the operation. It's going really well, and I'm not going for a walk just yet because we're going to have thunder and lightning any moment. But I'm aiming to go for a walk in 2 days on Wednesday. So I'll let you know how that goes. But even talking like this is not too bad at the moment. But there's still a lot of work to be done. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so day 9, and I'm outside going for a walk. Hello, so it's day 9, and I was about to say nothing's happening today, but as you just saw in that video, I went for a walk, and I feel great. It's really hot outside, it's about 30, 31, 32 degrees, but I had a letter this morning from the hospital saying I've got to go in tomorrow for my checkup, which was a bit of a surprise. I didn't think it'll be that soon, but yeah, I'm going in tomorrow. I suppose I'll get the results of my diagnosis, so I'll find out if it was anything bad or not, and I'll be telling you that at the end of the video. Probably not tomorrow, because I want to save that for the finale. So yeah, I've had no pain at all for about the last 24 hours. Haven't had any pills since Sunday night, and it's now Tuesday morning. So yeah, as you can hear, I'm getting better. I've still got the scabs, so I'll be asking them about that tomorrow and finding out when they should be coming out. But I feel much better. I'd say I'm about 90% back to normal after the week. Yeah, this is day 9, so really, really good, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 10, the 12th of August 2020, and the main news today is that I'm not going to hospital because it's actually next Wednesday, so it's a good thing I checked the date because it wasn't today, it's next week. So thankfully I realised last night I don't have to go in for another week. I thought it was a little bit early because I'm still recovering, but yeah, I feel great. I've been out for a longer walk. I feel about 95% now, getting my voice back. I feel fine physically, no pain at all now for about 2 or 3 days in a row. No pills, no painkillers. I feel back to normal. The scabs are still in my throat, but they'll come off quite soon. One thing though that I have noticed is that when I look inside my mouth, it looks like someone else's mouth. It's really weird how, for years I've been looking in the mirror in my throat or whatever, and it looks like somebody else's throat. It's totally changed the shape, the size. It all looks really different. So maybe that will settle down when the scabs have gone. but as you can tell, I still can't talk that well at the moment, so I should go and have a rest, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 11, the 13th of August 2020, and as you can tell, I'm starting to sound a little bit better and more back to normal. Now, I've had a really busy 24 hours because yesterday I went for a 30-minute walk, did a 30-minute drive, cut the grass, and did some admin work for my job, and I was really busy all day, and I felt fine, and it was really hot, 34 degrees. We had thunder and lightning storms, and despite all that, I still felt fine. This morning, I did wake up with just a tiny bit of discomfort, only a 1 out of 10 in terms of pain, so not much at all. But have you ever heard the saying, beware early jubilation? So be careful of celebrating too soon. I am aware the scabs have still yet to fully come off. It looks like some of them have come off, but I can't say I've noticed that apart from looking at them, I can't actually say I've noticed feeling anything. So yeah, I'm coming towards the end of this recovery diary. I'll be recording another 3 episodes of this on tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, and then I will be doing more in the future. But yeah, I'm starting to feel about the same every day. I've reached a plateau, I think, where I'm going to slowly get better and better, and the scabs will slowly go, and I'll slowly get my voice back a bit more every day. But yeah, there's no major news to report apart from that. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 12, the 14th of August, and I'm feeling so good. I've just recorded part 3 of this video where I spoke all about the operation. Now, I had a home delivery yesterday after I filmed that video, and I was talking to the delivery driver, and I feel really good. My voice is almost back to normal, but it's still a little bit sore, and I've still got a few scabs here and there in my throat, but really it's all going very well. I've actually found a really good method of using my V-pillow. I'll put a picture up on the screen now. I've had it positioned like this, and I found if you sleep on it and you kind of hug the right hand side, as I am in this picture, it's really comfortable. So really good tip for you there if you want a comfortable night's sleep. I recommend sleeping with a pillow like that. So there are 2 days left of this recovery diary, but I've decided I will be recording another one on Wednesday when I go to the hospital for my checkup, and I will give you the results of my diagnosis at the end of this 4th part of the video. I was going to do it at the very end, but now I'm going to put it in at the end of this section. So that's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 13, the 15th of August 2020, and I'm feeling so good that I've just recorded the final part of this video, part 5, which is about half an hour long. So a few more things I've got to tell you about. Over the last few days I have noticed that although I've had no ear pain, because people often say about having ear pain and having like whistling in their ears and things like that, I've had none of that, but I have had slightly waxy ears. I noticed I've had just a little bit more earwax than usual, but nothing really to be worried about. I've also had contact again from the hospital, and really interested in this. They are interested in doing a feature on their website because it's all gone so well and I've been filming this video. We're talking about doing some kind of feature on their website, so I may link to that in the description if that happens. My mouth as well, by the way, is pretty much back to normal. You know, I said when I looked inside it looked like somebody else's mouth. I've noticed it looks a little bit more normal. This side where I had the inflamed tonsil is still slightly more inflamed than that one, but the lump has gone. I'm sure it will go down. There's still a bit of scabbing, whatever there, although it does seem to be going quite quickly, that, and I haven't felt any of the scabs coming off. So that's all I've got to say for now, but I'll see you again tomorrow for the final entry, day 14, although we'll be doing one after that when I have my checkup. But anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, so it's day 14 of my recovery, the 16th of August 2020. And yeah, things have gone really well over this whole 2 weeks recovery. I still feel good. I'm about 96%. My throat is a little bit tighter today than yesterday, but that's maybe because I did a lot of filming yesterday and I was talking for about 45 minutes. So I'm not quite 100% just yet. But the big question for today is, if I was going back to work tomorrow, how would I feel? Because many people book 2 weeks off work and this would be my last day off and I'd be going back to work tomorrow. Well, I'd say I feel fine. I could easily go back to work. It's a little bit tighter when I talk. It's like around here, just feels a little bit tighter. You can still tell there's a little bit of scabbing at the back of my throat. But overall, yeah, if I really had to, I could go back to work tomorrow. So last night I had a spaghetti bolognese. I thought to try eating, normally again, the kind of things I normally have, and that was fine. I also had a double cheeseburger pizza, so a bit of a celebration there, getting back to normal food, and that was fine as well. I don't know if I mentioned before, but tonight I'm going to have a lemon meringue pie. I haven't had one for a long time, for years, but I bought it about a month ago. It's been in the freezer, and I thought I'd have that to celebrate the end of my recovery. I'd like to talk about a video that I watched in the run-up to my tonsillectomy that I thought had a brilliant title, and it was called "That Time I Had a Tonsillectomy." And I thought that was really good because that's what it's like. When you're going through it, it can seem like the biggest thing in your life, and you're having surgery and you've got to have time off work and all this preparation you have to do and recovery. And then as the weeks go by and the months go by, it becomes a memory. So rather than something you're thinking about, it becomes that time I had my tonsillectomy, and it's just something in the past. Even now, 2 weeks after the operation, it's getting harder to remember even the day that I had it. You think, what day was it? Was it a Monday? Was it a Tuesday? And it was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And those 2 weeks have gone in a flash. It was 4 weeks ago tomorrow that I started my isolation. And that seems like 5 minutes ago. So, it's gone really quickly. So I've got one more part of this video to film, which will be in 3 days' time when I go to hospital for my checkup. But overall, I would say the recovery has been nowhere near as bad as people made it out to be. Now, maybe they had worse recoveries than me, but I remember one person saying it was 10 times more painful than giving birth. And for me, it was never anything more than a sore throat. So I'll leave you for this section with this final thought. A bit of pain never hurt anyone. Hello, so it's day 15, the 17th of August 2020, and I've just had a phone call from the hospital, from the surgeon who did my operation. Now, he said he'd been away for a few days, but he's now had a look at the results of my diagnosis, and he told me that everything's fine. So that's great news. There's no sign of any cancer or tumour. He said there was a slight sign of tonsillitis, chronic tonsillitis, I think he said. So that would explain why it popped up. But great news. So I'm going to wrap up this video here and now because I simply don't need to do the trip to the hospital. He said you don't need to come in on Wednesday because it's all fine and it's all done. So yeah, it looks like I had a really good recovery. He said he will take another week or two maybe for all of these scaps to go. But that's it. So great news. I had a good recovery and I've now got the next 2 weeks off to do whatever I want. So let's move on now to part 5 of the video, my top tonsillectomy tips. Hello, so in this part of the video I'm going to give you my top tonsillectomy tips. These are the things that I did to get through my tonsillectomy as quickly and painlessly as possible. Please understand though that I'm not medically qualified, So this should not be taken as medical advice. Nothing in this video should be taken as medical advice, and it's up to you to check with your healthcare professional whether these things would be good for you, but these things were good for me. This video has been very long, it's about 3 hours in total, so this section is aimed to just give you quick rapid fire tips, so those of you that don't have time to watch the whole video will be able to benefit from these tips. I do recommend, however, you watch the whole video through, because otherwise you will miss out on a lot. But let's get going with my top tonsillectomy tips. So my number one tip is to prepare yourself mentally, because a lot of people don't think about the mental side of having an operation. They think about what they're going to eat and the food and the effect it will have on their body, but they completely neglect the mental side of things. Now, if you don't already know, I work as a hypnotherapist, which means I use hypnosis to help people make positive changes in their life. And I've got a nice little surprise for you now. I've actually made you all a free 30-minute hypnosis track, which is all about surgery and the tonsillectomy. So there'll be a link on the screen now, in the description and at the end of the video. And it's a free track, you can just listen to it. I recommend you listen to it while lying in bed, and it takes you on a journey to a faraway land, and it helps you to think about things more clearly and recover from your operation more quickly. If you'd like to get some help sleeping after your tonsillectomy, I've also made a great track called Night Train in the Rain. And you get onto a train on a dark, rainy night, and you go on a nice journey and meet a mysterious stranger who has a riddle for you to solve. And it's all done with sound effects of thunder and lightning and the train tracks and whatever. So I've done that for free. Please check out those videos, and they can help you prepare for your operation and to recover more quickly and to sleep better. But that is my tip. Prepare yourself mentally. Now, one way you can do this is think about the future. So think about what you're going to do after the operation. Don't focus on the operation itself. If you think about it, this is the time when you find out you need a tonsillectomy, and this is the time you're fully recovered. And this can be a time span of anything for a couple of months, for example. Imagine this is the run-up. This is when you're waiting for the operation, and this is the recovery. The operation itself is only that little bit there. It's half a day in the middle of the whole process. So don't focus on this bit, focus on the end, focus on the end result. And this is the tip I gave you earlier on in section 2, where I said about, having a target, having something to look forward to. In my case, I set the target of going out and doing some photography, and it gives your mind something to focus on beyond the operation, and it tells your mind, I am going to get through this, I will survive this, and I'm going to look forward to the future, and I'm going to enjoy doing this in the future. If you focus on the operation itself, you'll build it up to be a lot more than it is, because you'll be focusing on that rather than focusing on the future. And being a hypnotherapist, that's the technique I often use to get people to focus beyond a problem and the future. So I've got lots of tips written down here. That's some of the more mind stuff, but let's go on to more of the normal stuff for now. Now, I've also got a list of things that people said that I didn't find to be true, and I'll be talking about that in a moment, but this has just reminded me of one of them. A lot of people said about getting a humidifier. Now, being in England, the air is always quite damp anyway, and I had my tonsillectomy in August of 2020, and the temperatures during my recovery peaked at 34 degrees C, and even then I had no problem sleeping whatsoever. And a lot of people said about getting a humidifier. If you don't know, a humidifier is a little electronic device about that big. You fill them with water and they pump water into the air. Now, I'd never heard of these things before looking into this tonsillectomy. I'd heard of dehumidifiers, which take moisture out of the air, and I remember once moving into a flat and the landlord had bought me a brand new dehumidifier. That was a really bad sign, wasn't it? The flat was full of damp. I ended up moving out after 2 weeks. But anyway, dehumidifiers take moisture out of the air, humidifiers put moisture into the air, and the idea behind that is that your throat can get quite dry overnight once you've had a tonsillectomy. But again, I didn't find that it did, but I'll be going over those things in a moment, the things that a lot of people have said that didn't apply to me. Maybe because I had the right mindset, maybe just because of my physiology, metabolism, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But if you do want a humidifier, you can get them for as little as £15, or you can get a bigger one for about £35. But one thing I have noticed in the past is when I hang damp washing in my bedroom overnight, that helps the air to become moist. So if you want a free humidifier, I recommend just get a clothes dryer, the things you steel things, plastic you hang your clothes on to dry, and just get some old towels or bath towels, get them sort of soaking wet, run them under a tap so they're really wet, wring them out so they don't drip onto the floor, and then hang those on a clothes dryer in your bedroom, preferably by an open window, and it's brilliant. You get a free humidifier. Now, in terms of getting through the isolation time, this is something you probably won't have to do, so I won't focus on this too much, because this is probably coming to an end by the time you see this video, but I had to isolate for 2 weeks before my operation. Having a routine is great for getting through the isolation time, or even the recovery time. I made sure that I got up at the same time every day, and I'd have a routine where, like, 8 o'clock I would get up, 9 o'clock I would watch a video as I was having my breakfast. And I always remember one of my memories of this was the first day of isolation, putting YouTube on, and there was a video from a New York City subway train that some driver had stuck a camera on the front of his cab and he'd filmed the whole journey. And that always sticks in my mind. It will always be one of my memories of having a tonsillectomy, seeing this video of a New York City subway. But anyway, let's keep focused on this. But if you have things like that, so you think I'm going to get up at 8, I'm going to watch a video at 9, I'm going to read a book at 10, I'm going to have something to eat at 11, and if you stick to that routine, you'll be amazed how quickly the time goes, because you have a structure and a routine, and it really helps with your recovery and any isolation that you may have to go through. Now, the next point is quite funny. I don't know if you can hear this. You probably won't hear this on the microphone. But my neighbour's just come out and started cutting his grass, which is good timing, because the next thing I've written down is make sure you cut the grass, cut your hair, done the washing, anything like that, do it before you have your surgery. You will not feel like doing anything in the week after your surgery. So cut the grass, cut your hair, clean the car, or whatever you've got to do, any stuff you've got to get done. If you want to get something down from the loft, for example, I had a food mixer in the loft I wanted to get down, make sure you've got as much done as you can before you go in for surgery, because you won't feel like doing it afterwards. Look after yourself in the run-up to surgery, because they won't do it if you've had things like falls, or if you go in and you've got a huge cut down your arm and it's an open wound. They may not do the operation. And I remember I made a note of this. It was the day before my surgery, and I was sitting in the garden, and I was just going to walk back in my house, and I tripped on a paving slab. And I very nearly had a nasty fall. I just stopped myself. I went like that, and I just stopped myself from tripping over. That could have messed up the whole thing. So look after yourself in the run-up to the surgery. If you can, exercise a bit more than normal. Make sure you eat and drink really well, because you may not be able to eat and drink that well after surgery. I could, but maybe you won't be able to. Drinking a lot of water really helps. One of the main reasons people have setbacks from tonsillectomies, especially bleeding, is that they don't drink because they think, oh, I've got a sore throat, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to eat. I put a lot of my recovery down to not just my hypnosis and meditation, but also the fact that I drank and ate as normal. The tonsillectomy didn't affect my eating and drinking at all, and I recovered in about 9 days, as you'll see if you've watched part 4 my recovery diary. It wasn't a full recovery, and I'm recording this on day 13, so I haven't even yet got to the end of my 2-week recovery, which I recommend. Most people say 3 to 6 weeks. I'm not even into the 3rd week, and I've recovered this well already. So a lot of it I put down to hypnosis and meditation and eating and drinking to work on the mind and the body together, and you'll be fine. A good tip if you get too much pain is to visualize the pain. This is quite funny. There was one morning, I think it was day 5 or 6, you'll see in my recovery video, when I did have a bit more pain than I had had before. It went up to about 4 out of 10. And the way I imagine this is I embraced the pain. I visualised my pain as being a big red rubber bouncy ball with a big smiley face on it. And every time I felt pain, I would imagine this big ball, which I thought was about that big, bouncing around the room going boing, 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 and this stupid smiley face saying, "Hello, I'm the pain, how are you doing today?" And I used to actually talk to the pain. I used to say, "Hello pain, how are you? Are you back, are you? Come to visit me again." And it sounds mad, but if you kind of make fun of it and talk to it, it works, it helps. It helps take away the pain, because rather than it being you versus the pain, you're kind of embracing it and making fun of it. And it's a psychological technique that works really well. So imagine something really silly. Imagine the pain to be someone running around you with sticking the tongue out with the fingers in their ears like that. And just imagine the pain to be something really silly. The next tip is to carry on as normally as you can, and this is something the doctor said to me. The more you lie around feeling sorry for yourself and thinking, "Oh, I'm ill, oh, I'm so tired, oh, my throat's sore, I'm in so much pain," you're telling yourself that's what you want, because your mind gives you what you want. If you have a positive mental attitude and you think, "Okay, so I've had an operation, but I'm going to get better, and I'm feeling better each day," it makes such a difference to carry on as normally as you can. Now, of course, you're going to be tired. Of course, you should not be driving a car or anything like that within days of having your operation. But live your life as normally as you can and just get back to normal as soon as you can. Don't enjoy being ill, otherwise you'll find it drags on and on even longer. Now, I'm going to talk now about some star items. These are some of the best things that I bought. If you haven't seen part 2, do watch that part, because it's really important. That's all about the build-up and the run-up and the preparation for my operation. Without doubt, the number 1 star product. Any ideas what it is? Because I've mentioned it a lot, and I've got it here. The V-pillow. Another thing that I put my fast recovery down to is this, because when I sleep with it like this, it was so comfortable and it allowed me to get a good night's sleep. The only 2 nights I had a bad sleep was the one of the operation when I wasn't here and I didn't have my pillow. I did think of taking it with me, but it was a bit too big to carry with me, so I didn't. And the only other bad night was when we had really bad thunderstorms, lightning, and it was 34 degrees. Even overnight it went down to about 26 degrees in the night. So that was another night I had a bit of bad sleep. But that really helps me sleep. And sleeping is the best way of healing. So get a good night's sleep. And that's really one thing I recommend. If you don't have one, get one. Get one delivered tomorrow if you can. It's just like having 2 pillows together, but it's so comfortable and it supports your head so you can sleep. I wasn't sitting there like this, I was lying down, I had 1 pillow underneath me and this. And when you fall asleep, it just supports your head so you don't wake up with a stiff neck. You don't want to lie down flat like that in bed. You want your head to be raised because it's a lot better. And people say about having a dry throat when you wake up in the morning. I never had that once. Well, maybe once I had like a bit of a tickle, but I didn't have it every day like most people have said they had. My other star items were the gel packs. I bought these 2 packs you could put in the freezer. I used those for when it was really hot, it helped cool me down. And also, when I didn't want to have any pills, You could just put those on your neck and it was really soothing and really calming. Jelly's brilliant. Everyone says jelly, very easy to eat. And ice pops as well. I never used ice pops because I prefer, the next thing I wrote down, hot food. I found hot food was brilliant. Soup, any kind of, what else did I have? Pasta, hot chocolate, really, really good. Instant hot chocolate you make with water. It keeps you hydrated. Very, very calming when you drink that. Hot food was great. I actually found cold food when I had the first popsicles. I got home here on day 2 and they actually hurt my tongue a bit. I found sometimes cold stuff hurt, whereas hot stuff was really good. Mints were really good. Remember in part 2 I showed you those mints that I bought. I never even opened the pack of assorted mints, but I had the imperial mints. The chewing gum was a bit strong, I found. I didn't like that much, but the mints were really, really good, and they definitely helped get rid of the horrible taste you get in your mouth. But you know what helped me the most? Well, I'll tell you that in a moment. But before we do that, let's look back at these things people said. I watched about 10 different videos on YouTube of tonsillectomies, and these are things people all said which weren't true for me. I'm sure they were true for those people, but if you're watching this and you're worried about the things you've heard, well, I found these things were not true for me. People said you can't eat. I was eating normally. On day 2, the day after my operation, within 24 hours of the operation, I was eating eggs, and I had tortilla wraps. I was having ham and drinking. The day after that, day 3, I was having bacon and eggs for breakfast. I just carried on eating as normal. It didn't affect my eating at all. People say you get pain in your ears. I had no ear pain at all. I didn't have any ringing in my ears. I didn't have ear pain. I had a slight bit of earwax, just a tiny bit more than normal, but no ear pain. People say you lose your sense of taste. I didn't, and the doctor said that shouldn't happen. You do get an inflamed tongue, and of course you've got dried blood and whatever in your mouth, so things do taste different. I found that eggs tasted the same, baked beans tasted the same, but a lot of things had like a stale taste because you've got stale stuff in your mouth. So the taste of some things does change, but you don't lose your taste. Losing weight, people say they lost over a stone in weight. I only lost 2 pounds in weight, which wasn't much at all, considering that I was eating maybe a little bit less, even though I was eating the same food, maybe eating slightly less, but I didn't lose weight at all. Waking up to take medicine in the middle of the night, I never needed to do that at all. People said they had a feeling of glass in the throat. Never had that at all. It was a bit like a sore throat, but it was all at the top around here. My throat there was fine. And those are things people said, which I didn't find true for me. So what is it that helped me the most? More than, I'd say anything, even more than the hypnosis and the food and the drinking and eating and all of that, even more than the V-pillow perhaps. What helped me the most to get through this? Making this video. Now, being a therapist, I got trained to do something with clients called journaling, and I never really understood what it was all about, but now I do. Journaling is when you make a journal, like a diary, of what you're going through. So you record a video, you record the audio, you write it down. And I never really understood why I was supposed to get clients of mine to do that. And it's because it helps get your thoughts out into the world, and writing things down and saying them on camera like this really helps. And I don't think I would have got through this operation anywhere near as easily as I did without making this video. So I do recommend make your own video, write down your own journal. You don't have to go and put it online like I am, but it really does help to get your thoughts down, and it helps to get them out into the real world, and it helps you to think about things and to talk things through. And that massively helped me during my tonsillectomy. So that brings us to the end of this tonsillectomy adventure. I really hope that this video helps people, and I'd love to hear from people going through a tonsillectomy. Please do leave a comment, because this video has taken a lot of work to make. I've been spending 2 months of my life making this. I've spent hours filming this and editing it, and it's 3 hours long. So I'd really appreciate in return if you can give me a thumbs up and do leave a comment and share this video with anyone you think will be helped by it. If you have enjoyed watching this video and would like to see more from me, well, I do have over 450 videos on YouTube. There are currently about 30 on this channel roughly. This is my hypnotherapy channel, Hypnotist Fix, where we talk about hypnosis, meditation, and I help people make positive changes in their life. My other channel is called First Drive, and it's a driving school channel because I spent 20 years as a driving instructor. That one's a bit more of a laugh. We have some fun with driving lessons and driving tests and funny driving stuff in general. But if you want to see more from me, then there's plenty more out there. I will also be making another follow-up to this video, at least one follow-up if not two, showing you how things go a month or two from now. And yeah, if you want to follow me, then please do. So thanks for watching this video, and I really hope it's helped people. Please do let me know. It would mean a lot if you let me know if it's helped you out. I'm sure you're going to have a great time having your tonsillectomy, just as I had. So all that's left to be said is thanks for watching and enjoy your tonsillectomy.